We're on.
I want to welcome everybody to, I think, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is our 6th meeting this summer.
Probably.
If I'm wrong, then I'll apologize. But I just want to welcome everybody back to the table, especially BFT. I know our team is excited to talk to you guys today. We feel that we're optimistic that we are very close to a contract. I want to welcome our audience members. I'm glad that you all are here, and we appreciate the things that you all are, as far as the input that I've been receiving through emails and through social media. I appreciate that. Like I said, we're very optimistic, and we like to make sure that our opening statements are that we feel today is maybe one of those special kind of days where we're hoping we're going to get a contract today. We're serious. We feel like we've got language that is encouraging and will be positive and hopefully received by you guys as something that you'll be happy with. We know that we were tasked with some homework assignments last week, and we feel we're ready, prepared to discuss that and make adjustments if need be. So I know that you've put up a list of things that we've done, and there are things that we'd like to get into, and of course then we have a to-do list. So I'm optimistic about that. So how do you feel about this today?
Well, I feel good about today. Like you, I don't know if 6 is right, but we put in a lot of good time. And
Yes,
thank
we
you,
have.
Jim. I think each member on your team is one of those I want to look in the eye and thank you all. I know sometimes you miss a day here and there, but your input is always good. Some of you have been here for every session. I don't think Barry's missed a session in 12 years, but we appreciate your input and all that you've been here for.
And I want you to-
that's appreciated.
I want you to know the reason some of my team members are out today, and that's Jim Hudson and a few others, is that there is the shelter training that takes place throughout our district for administrators for hurricane disaster.
Okay.
That's Red Cross and everybody, they're at Manatee. So I got a few that will be slipping in and out, but I apologize to interrupt.
Oh,
but I
that's
want
all
you
right.
to know that-
Maybe we'll get that training in before that job called pressure.
Right.
Formed yesterday. We have Debbie's on her way to AFT national training in Maryland, or else she'd be here. And we've had teachers coming in and out of workshops. I appreciate all of you for your time that you're given. It's valuable to the profession that we do this, so I appreciate everyone that's here. Don't get the cameraman. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks.
You got that wide angle lens, not making it look so bad. All right, Jim, we're all teachers. We've all been in a classroom at some point, and we know what it's like when, this won't be an exact metaphor, so don't be offended, but we know what it's like when that kid comes back and there's been problems in the past, right? And you're looking at the kid.
Right.
It's fair to look in the front mirror, right, not the rear view mirror. Use the words of a great philosopher. So we're going to look head on. But when that kid says, I hope I have a great day, as teachers, we say, it's up to you, right? So we've done a lot of work. I put that up there just so people can know. I didn't check sides. I didn't say this was, some of those the union brought, some you brought.
Right.
If we're working well together, then we can all share the success and we can say it's all win without keeping score.
Okay.
Anyone is keeping score, we're winning, but no, just kidding.
Right.
No, we've got some things done, we've got some things that we had to do, and there's some positive stuff. I spoke to the board yesterday. They have that open mic night at the board meetings, and I spoke in general terms because some of the board members, we can talk to board members, but some of them have expressed they're uncomfortable if we call them up and start talking about issues. They say we'd rather not, and that's just from past experience, not even this year. I haven't really tried to lean on issues this year. But spoken in very general terms about our hope that when teachers come back to school, they're going to get a lot of information.
Yeah.
Some of it will be contract. They're going to see changes made in their contract. They'll hear about that. Hopefully it will be settled. If not, they're just going to get a news report where we are. But they're going to hear about changes to the evaluation system. They're going to hear about standardized test relief. They're going to hear about a new data management system. They're going to hear the results of the district last spring, January, February, somewhere there was this philosophy, what can we take off your plates? And some stuff came a little bit in spring, but a lot just came for, well, next year. There's hope for next year. So my hope, and I express this to the board, is that teachers will get a sense that things are really better.
Okay.
And when I say really better, my yardstick, my measurement is better for them to do their job better for kids. Because that's what they tell us. They don't say, we're afraid of work. I don't get teachers calling me saying, I don't want to work as much. I get teachers saying, I'm being asked to do stuff that isn't even good for kids anymore. So we want to get back to that. A big piece of morale, you're probably holding your hand right there, but a big piece of morale, can't sugarcoat it, is their pay.
Right, that's what I have here.
You just have to have something. I can't go back to teachers, okay, knowing that knowing what we know,
All right,
and say, let's get excited about the half penny
right.
and all that. All right, do you want to hit AC? You got hot news in your hand. Do you want to hit AC first, or you want to talk about that?
Yeah, let's talk about AC. Let's
Okay.
talk about AC, and if it's all right with you and your team, I don't want to get too bogged down in language. I'd like to talk about annual contracts, if there's,
Okay.
since that's, I
You
think.
gave some homework, but if you want to talk
Right.
first.
And then maybe we could then, as you say, we could tackle the bigger issue, and that
Okay.
is talk a little bit about money. Hopefully we'll come to an agreement, and then we can clear up the things that are out there that need to be taken care of. But I'd like to try to, I know last week we got bogged down on annual contract teachers and got bogged down on steering committee, and that ate up a good portion of our morning. And I feel like, I don't know about you guys, but I feel we're all better in the morning. You know what I'm saying? We're more attentive and able to concentrate. That's gonna be where we really need to concentrate today. Does that sound like a plan?
Yep.
Sound like a plan?
I'll mention for housekeeping, if it's around 10:30, we'll make a call if we want to order for lunch. We'll bring it up here if you want to see if that's what we want to do.
Okay. Let's talk about annual contract teachers. We're ready to listen. You guys got a proposal, or?
Basically, we took your language, which apparently at one time was our language, and we were calling out stuff across the table and saying, hey, cross this out, move that there. And at some point, you said, Dan, just go write it up. So we wrote it up.
Okay.
Along the way, we had some good ideas. We look over to Sandy. We had some good ideas about how maybe this could make it, same spirit, but maybe it could be bullet pointed, made a little bit more simple, and we realized we didn't want to rock the boat to that extent because we kind of took ownership of that after we gave it to you. So we're trying to just cross out and add in based on what you gave us. So does everyone on our team have it? On our team got it? All right, let's see. So how many got it? Thanks, Jerry. And I'm gonna take you through the highlights, and then I'm gonna let my team kind of express some thoughts. And then, of course, we want to hear what you have to say. If you want us to go away while you get your thought, that's fine.
Okay.
However you want to do it. But I want to take you through the highlights here. And, oh, excuse, sorry.
Mr. Creech.
Oh, I'm sorry. Welcome back, Arby.
Thank you.
Glad everything's okay.
Everything's great, thank you so much.
Good. All right, just take through some highlights. We were looking for, after a first year of being on annual contract, teachers, that if they have their effective, they are reappointed, so they're given some job security.
All right.
The proposal you gave us, based on model language that we gave you, was that you kind of recreate the old PSC system, where after 3 years, you get that kind of job security.
Yes.
So that was a difference. You'll notice in that third line, we crossed out no less than an effective evaluation for each of the 2 most recent school years. So that's basically the difference in philosophy we have. We're suggesting crossing that at this point. I'd suggest no matter what, you see parenthetically there, or an effective rating under the teacher evaluation prior to July 1. They've got something going on in Seminole County that really isn't relevant to us. Even if we go with your model, I'm not saying we are, but even if we go with yours, it's awkward to have that parenthetical thing there. Because basically yours is have 3 years of effectiveness.
Okay.
And if you go put weird stuff in parentheses, it doesn't pertain to us.
Right.
So even if we
Okay.
agree, I think we still would cross that out. The rest of it deals with the nuance that I'm trying to capture is, you guys are saying that if you fit at the school, if you meet the qualifications, you fit at the school, you're reappointed and reassigned to the school.
Okay.
If you don't, you're put into a pool where you're eligible.
Yes, sir.
I'm taking in a pool eligible as officially not yet reappointed, as officially out of a job.
And that's That's
Okay?
true.
And I think that's what
Yes.
you were going for.
Yes, sir.
And what we're trying to avoid is that situation where someone says, but I did a good job, I just don't fit at my school. HR is in that summertime thing saying, don't worry, stay optimistic, get your resume, someone will pick you up. But in the meantime, they officially don't have a job. And we hear from teachers 3, 4, 5, 6, up to 10 years into their career, they say, I don't want to look forward to a lifetime of this. So we think that if they're effective and they meet your requirements, whatever we agree on for requirements, they should be reappointed to the pool, which means unassigned. You've got teachers right now that are reappointed unassigned. They're reappointed unassigned at the board meeting.
Okay.
And then they get pulled out of the pool, whatever the process is, principals look them over, principals go look in the pool, they see the ones that are qualified, they pull them out of the pool. We have language in here that says if a principal picks you and you are assigned, you better take it,
Right.
okay?
Or you forfeit that.
Right. We have an understanding, just the way it is, we don't need to write it, it's just the way the world is. If you give up your assignment, then you gave up, I mean, that's just
You-
always.
you gave it up.
When you're pulled, that's the way it was, so
Right.
that's just the way it is, okay? So, so anyway, we have that, and then you've got the out there, which we agree to. We agree to the out, that, well, if there's just no job there, you know, if you dropped everything from your certificate for driver's ed, and we don't have driver's ed, you know, if there's just no job for you, then we already have language to that effect, and we're not opposed to that. We're not gonna force you to pay someone who's no job. So anyway, that's where we are. You'll notice underneath it, we gave you some comp time language. That's when we get to comp time. Okay, and I'm not suggesting we already do that now, but when we get to it, we'll get to it.
All right. Okay. Dan, we've talked to our school board attorney, okay? Because we wanted to make sure that if we come to the table and agree to whatever it is we agreed to today with your contract teachers, that we hold ourselves not, liable, or we're held harmless for anything that we might enter into. One of the things that we're concerned about, and we want to make sure that you all understand what our concerns are, is that if we offer somebody and reappoint them and offer them a contract, we're on the hook for a job, I'm saying, whether we have a job or not. And we're not in a position right now where we would like to be able to offer a bunch of folks a contract without a guaranteed position. That's to us a reckless move. It could be perceived that we're paying people without a position, and if we ever did not have a position, then that means we'd have to come and move them into our sub-pool and pay them until we found a position for them, which could be indefinite. So that is our concern. We're okay with reappointing or establishing a pool with our annual contract teachers. We're even okay with the fact that if we establish a pool, we won't advertise for any position if we've got folks certified in that pool and they've got effective and highly effective evaluations. So we'd like to be able to pass language across to you that explains that, because I have a feeling probably where we're heading is that you all would like to read our language, you'd like to read yours through a caucus, and then maybe come back and try to hammer it out, okay? So I'm gonna put language across that talks about annual contract, okay? Let me make sure that our folks get it too. Okay?
We're talking on the phone, so we're talking on that
Dan, our language is on the back. Everything it starts on the bottom. Our annual contract, but a lot of it's back.
So you think we'll only read that?
Yeah, well, we're giving you we're giving you all of our language today because that's the last of it. So we want to make sure we get to it. But annual contract starts at the bottom and goes on the back.
There's no surprise on the other stuff, all right.
Yeah, I'll break that other stuff across the table. I just wanna make
Starting on line 6, is that where we were on the back?
No, it starts on line 30 on the front.
Line 30.
Right, okay, well, that's just
Assignments
crossing
and
out stuff.
transfers.
Yeah, okay, okay,
We added back in the paragraph you wanted us to add back in.
We put in the paragraph that you get.
okay, thank you.
Notice the first paragraph, it's back in
And
there.
then you really like that other,
We took out that middle paragraph that you wanted us to take out, that one that,
okay,
we took that out.
This is
Scratched
progress.
it out. Dan,
We
the
do-
only,
we find annual
you'll see,
contract.
the
All
only
right.
difference in our, what we have got is that you can see the cross
Do
outs.
you want to just summarize the philosophy here? What's going
Yeah,
on in
I
this
just,
paragraph?
I just
Oh,
basically
okay.
summarized it. We are basically saying that we will, put our we want our annual contract teachers back in our district. We want them to go into our pool. If we can reappoint them prior to school ending and there's a spot for them at the school that they're currently in, you know what I'm saying? In other words, if Jen is at Vieira High School and she's annual contract and she's in good standing, and I have that spot, and I'm gonna reappoint you. I'm gonna, as a principal, I'm gonna reappoint you and keep you at Vieira High School. However, if I don't have a spot for you, but you're in good standing, Jen would go into a pool, and during the summer, the principals would use that list before they could advertise any job in our district to be able to select teachers off of that list until all of them were appointed into a position.
So even before the end of the school year, then they could be going into that pool.
Yes.
So if I'm a principal and I figure out like spring break, I
Yes.
say, okay, these guys are back, this is this, I
Yes.
know I'm gonna have a fifth grade position next year, and other principals are doing that same thing.
Yep.
I need a fifth grade teacher, they could go look in the pool and grab it.
And if I could add, just because, I mean, Jim wasn't working closely with us in May when we were working through this process, but the vast majority of people who were reappointed unassigned, we were able to find a home for before the end of the school year. And we cleared that pool within the first couple of weeks of June. Because the area superintendents and I worked very closely with Barbara Davis, our recruitment specialist, and the principals. And I don't allow them to advertise a position for which we have somebody in the pool. They can post it, but we don't post it externally to the world. We just know where it is,
It's
and we
internal.
call them and say, we have a fine candidate for you. We do encourage them to interview because it's always more comfortable if somebody's chosen, so to speak. But we certainly make sure that no positions are advertised for which we have people in the pool until that pool is clear. And we had it cleared by the end of June.
Well, we still got people in the pool. We got people in an effective pool, they're swimming in an effective pool.
All right.
Were
They're not
reappointed
getting there.
unassigned?
Well, we know you're.
They don't have jobs.
Okay.
They're not
Remember,
reappointed, they're not
these are
assigned, they're
people
not
who
anything.
principals reappointed unassigned that we've cleared out. I know
Okay.
that we still have a few annual contract teachers on your list, and we continue to work with those people and
Right.
talk about those, but they weren't reappointed.
So you're saying that this year, the school year that ended, principals had the option, if the teacher wouldn't fit at the school, they could reappoint them anyway.
They did reappoint some of them unassigned, yes.
Well, we want them all reappointed unassigned, if they're effective.
And we've offered for you what we would certainly consider doing for reappointed unassigned.
So if they end up in this pool, okay, I'm effective, my principal says, I wish I could take you back. Or I'm effective, and I'm effective, whatever. According to this language. Principal reappoints me, even if I don't fit at the school. What if I'm effective, okay, say 44 out of 47, because I've got one like that right now, 44 out of 47. I won't fit at the school. The principal doesn't reappoint me. Just hands me the letter, says you don't fit here next year. I don't have room for you for next year, so here's your letter, sorry, your annual contract is over. Does this language mean they'll be reappointed to the pool?
If they meet the criteria that we've established on the sheet.
So they will be, I'm trying to figure out the actual.
If they meet the,
Right, right, if they meet all
criteria
this,
on the
right,
sheet, yes.
certification and effective and all that, I didn't fit at the school, is there any way a principal would say you're not reappointed?
They can't. I mean, if they meet the criteria on this sheet and we agree to this language, then the principal would be reappointing them, or either would at least be putting them in the pool. They would be
Well, see,
recommending them
that,
for the pool.
that's a slight
The
nuance.
problem- right,
There's
okay,
a
I'm
little
sorry.
difference between
There
being
is
on the
that.
deck
You're
and
right.
in the pool.
You're right.
And so what I want is that because right now what we have is teachers are walking
Right.
around going, I don't know what I did wrong. I went through all the hoops, I ended up effective. My principal said there wasn't a spot for me at the school. And right now, this moment in time, they do not have a job.
I apologize, Dan, I was unclear with that.
Okay?
If they meet the criteria on this sheet, and I don't have a position for you at
And
my
just so we
school,
know, criteria means certification and good evaluation.
and the 3
The
years.
ESOL and all that.
That's what I
Highly
wanna make sure.
effective
Okay,
inspectors,
right,
that's
you're
3
still
years.
at 3 years.
Right.
3 years.
Then the principal doesn't have a place for them. They would be recommended for the pool, but we would not actually offer them a contract until we have a position for them. But we would not hire a single external candidate as long as somebody in the pool had that certification that was necessary for that job. I would not allow a principal to go outside, even a principal at another school, if we had somebody in the pool who met these criteria, they would be assigned to that school and offered the contract for reappointment. Does that make sense?
Dan,
Well,
we did
I get
this-
what you're saying.
We
but
did this 3
I
summers
understand
ago.
what you're, right.
We did
Right.
this exact same thing 3 summers ago. In other words, we had PSCs and ACs on a sheet. There must have been 200 or 300 names on the sheet. And I can remember as a principal, I could not hire one job outside of this district until all of those folks on that list were placed into a position.
The board's concern, the attorney, is that, say, for example, we reappoint these people, and then we have no job for them, even after 6-day count. We can't, in language, forfeit a contract once it's been approved by the board and offered, extended and offered.
That's what this language is right here.
I understand that language
Your-
says
your-
that.
Your last sentence is.
I understand that language says that they would forfeit it or whatever. They can forfeit their eligibility in the pool, they can forfeit their eligibility for assignment, but if they haven't been approved as a contract, you can't, once a contract is rendered, it can't be
It's binding.
voided without just cause. Just like the current laws, even an annual contract teacher after the first year has the protection of just cause for the course of that school year.
If we reappoint you, it's binding.
And we're willing to be bound to not hiring anybody from the outside in your certification area if you're in this pool.
All right, let's see. Where-
Here's the other thing, Dan. I intimately had conversations with the board members, all 5. They are adamant, and we've said this across the table, so I want you to know it's our commitment. If we've got somebody in Palm Bay, it's not that we're gonna send them to Titusville. We are going to make sure that they have a job in close proximity. It's not like we're gonna take David Meter from Jackson Middle School and ship him all the way to Palm Bay unless David wants to go to Palm Bay. The only time that we will do that is if we have no other position in this district. So I want you to know it's the board's intention, and they are adamant about that not be what this is about.
Well, I think what we're gonna talk about, well, they'll tell me what we're gonna talk about, but we're gonna comment on the 1 year versus 3 years. We'd like protection after 1, not 3. And we're gonna talk about as a team if that is enough, that we're in a pool eligible, even if we're in a pool without a contract. So that's what we're as a team gonna go caucus. I'm surprised you by telling me that.
Now, Dan, I want to talk a little bit about that, because that's the part that we're also a little tight on. You know, when we used to have the old PSC model, all teachers in the state of Florida were on a probationary period for 3 years, all of them. And then after your 3rd year, you were either decided to you were given PSC, or you were on a probationary period until such time you came off. What I want to get across to you all is, why in the world would you want something that's much more stringent than what we used to have? Because
Well, the good news is I will
that's
not.
not something that, even in our culture, even in our practice, even in what we do as teachers, that's never, ever been given. That's not a best practice. We don't give somebody a guaranteed contract after their 1st year. They're on some kind of probationary period. We've been practiced that. All of us went through that PSC. So I want you all to know, I want you to know, we're pretty tight on
Good news is I will not be giving you an earful on that.
that. Okay.
My team will though.
I understand.
When we come back.
But I
So,
wanted them to understand the philosophy, why we're tight on that, so that we've never, ever.
Well, you won't be
in our
wondering.
experiences-
You won't be wondering why we're
Yeah.
tight on it.
I know that you all were talking about the Indian River County model, and I understand that and respect that. So I think that may be why this may be driving that, but I want you to know.
You won't wonder what's driving it. So we're, the 9 o'clock, we'll come back.
Yeah.
Okay, break, walk in circle. Jim, I had 2 issues on the to-do list, not new to-do, but just, we had talked about tuition reimbursement. We may just wrap that up, and we'll make plans for that subcommittee was gonna meet. And then I noticed on your list, we didn't really talk much about the other stuff. But I know you've got something about mileage for folks driving around, so I don't want to ignore it. It was important for enough to bring up. Now, 6 years in a row, we'll cover it again today. Here's where we are. I lost the line. We had two things we had talked about. The first was that 1 versus 3 issue, and the second was whether or not Deborah's explanation of all this, of how this would actually work, if that was acceptable to us. And you're a good salesperson. I mean, you explained it well, kind of convincingly. We didn't know that the language went far enough to explain the way you explained it, so I'm going to suggest a sentence, and we may back this around a little bit. I didn't etch this in stone, but we might back this around to make sure we capture what we want to capture. So I'm looking at, and even my team might say, Dan, that's not what we agreed to, but anyway, so, at line 21 of the backside, where it says, let's see, the principal shall select from the eligible candidates. I'd like to insert a sentence there that says, all teachers in the eligible pool shall be assigned before positions are filled from outside the pool. I don't know if that's awkward or not, but that's basically trying to capture the essence that we're going to fill in the pool. Now, that leaves a what if. I am trying to, I do want to, of course, understand that this is by position. If you've got one chemistry teacher floating in the pool, we're not trying to hold up hiring of an elementary school teacher. Okay, so if we understand that, we understand it. If you all need to add a sentence to clarify that, or if there's a better way that could have been written. But we just didn't feel that your language went as far as your explanation. All right. Now, we did have, outside of today, we had spirited talk about the job security after 1 year or job security after 3 years. I understand where you're coming from. After 3 years recreates as best we can the old PSE system. We find a lot of counties are ready to do it after 1. So I want to invite my team to talk about why we believe 1 is important. Dave, go ahead.
As we're looking forward in our windshield, this is I know 3 years have been normal, but new business practices are out there. And counties are trying to retain teachers. There was a newspaper article about how many teachers are leaving Florida and everything. And I don't understand, I guess from a business standpoint, if a teacher is effective, well, why not just keep them there at that school if you have that position? Immediately keep them there. We have a teacher that left my school, PSC, going to Orange County, knowing that after 1 year, after effective or highly effective rating, that she will be guaranteed that she's going to be able to have that continuing contract. So the only thing I would say to you is that there are some new business practices out there, and they are getting away from the 3-year, and a lot of counties are going to a 1-year program. And we have a very long county right here on the coast, and it's very easy to jump from Titusville over to Orange County, or go, if you're in Palm Bay, go down to Indian River. And we don't want those counties taking away good new teachers.
I understand that.
Yeah, I believe that Brevard Public Schools needs to position itself to appear more attractive as a county to teachers. And while it's fair in some ways, and it's very comfortable to go with a 3-year plan, that's stretching it out there, that's going to have a repulsive effect, push away, to push away potential teachers, highly qualified teachers from coming into the county, looking at Brevard to settle into, rather than Orange County, Indian River, Osceola, Volusia. it's good business for the district to set an example or follow now an example that's being set by neighboring counties, that we want to attract great teachers and keep them as quickly as we can. You know, there's some of us sitting at the table here that after 3 years were appointed professional contract. And every one of us breathed some kind of great sigh of relief that, wow, okay, now I've got some comfort as an educator. There's others at this table that don't have that, but they're just as good as teachers, if not better, and they deserve some kind of comfort as quickly as possible. As professionals, there's really no reason to put someone on probation for 3 years.
Dan, in your discussion with your team, other than the probationary period, would you be willing to accept our language as we put across the table?
Well, the last thing,
Was that what? was
the
that a
last sticking point, yeah, as far as yours instead of ours, yeah, I think you've captured.
So
Oh, yeah,
where we are
we
right
do-
now is that you're okay with the fact that we wouldn't reappoint, we put people into a pool. You've asked us to
Yeah,
look at.
that part, we can live with that.
Right, you've asked us to insert.
Remember the old days of this, can we live with it?
Yeah,
We can live with it, but we're still, we'll be talking about 1 year.
I'll get one of those notes now.
You're getting
I
notes?
just-
Okay, we've got another comment too on our side, maybe more than one.
Okay. All right, Michelle?
I just have a question in regards to the reappointment or the being put into the pool. This year, if I got ineffective, I wasn't necessarily reappointed as an AC teacher. So how is it going to be guaranteed that if these principals say that this AC teacher is effective or highly effective, that they are reappointed or put in that pool, reappointed to the pool? How is that going to be put out there to the principals or mandated?
All right, that's,
You're bound by
Bound
contract
by
language.
contract
If
to
we
do that.
agree and ratify this contract, we're bound by that. That's why I'm saying if they meet the criteria that we establish in the contract, then they are bound to follow that.
I can explain.
Or Dan has procedures in place to
Right.
hold us accountable.
I can explain the process, because we did
I think we
this,
clarified some of
we
those.
did this up until the law changed, 2 or 3 years ago, I can't remember exactly when it changed. What used to happen when I was a principal was this: I would get a packet from Mrs. Pace's office, from HR. It would make me list all of my annual contract teachers who were effective. At that time, I think they were what?
Proficient.
Proficient. I would list all of them. And if I had a spot for them, I'd say that they were being reappointed to my school. And there was a certain code that I would put down, reappointed, and I have a spot for them, and I've got a position on my par for them. Boom. Those were easy. Then if I had a teacher that I was saying to the district, they are in good standing, I've given them a proficient rating, they need to stay in our district. There was another code in which, when I sent that paperwork in, Mrs. Pace's office would run that list, and there might be 2 or 3 from each school, and then prior to the end of school, Mrs. Pace would put a blockade on any advertisements. We could not advertise any jobs until all of those people on that, all those annual contract teachers were taken off of that list. Now, as Dan pointed out, there was 1 or 2 that were creating a logjam because, there's that one chemistry teacher, one physics teacher that could not be placed, and we were looking for a spot for them. We would call the union and say, look, can we go ahead and run our ads because this is really getting ridiculous. Volusia County, Orange County, and Indian River County are grabbing up all the teachers, and we're just sitting around worried about 2 or 3 that are on this list. They would pretty much say, go ahead, get the ads out there, and that's what would happen.
Okay, so
So
as
that
an
list
AC,
goes in
as-
March.
as an AC teacher, I would be handed some sort of an official letter from the principal
Yep.
saying that you are or you're appointed to the pool, but I don't have a placement for you at this school?
That's pretty much what we did, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
You're placed
What
in
we
the
would
pool.
want, this year we didn't get a lot of that. A lot of our our ACs,
No, we
couldn't
didn't
fit
do
at the
it.
school, they had the form letter.
Right.
Principals would say, this is the form letter from the county. They'd hand them a letter that says, you're an annual contract teacher, at this time you don't have a job. I don't know if it said thank you or sincerely or what, and that was that.
And you know why, Dan?
We
Because-
want an explanation that says, You are eligible, you're going to go into a pool, you'll be placed before anyone else in this county. Here's how you keep in touch with us, here's how we'll keep in touch with you. You know, update your contact information, you know, and maybe, you know, and do all that. So we want to know that that all's going to happen.
All right, I've got something here from Ms. Pace, and I'm hoping I can read it correctly. We're gonna insert this into, try this.
tried.
Well, in fact, I'm gonna let her read it. I'll let
Just
her
kind
read
of
it.
tweaking the language that you recommended, you said, all teachers in the eligible pool shall be assigned before positions are filled from the outside the pool. I'd just like some consideration for some language about certification area. Remember you said we
I
might
said
tweak
you
this a
might
little
want
bit?
to, yeah.
So this would say, all teachers assigned to the pool will be assigned to positions in their certification area before an external candidate with the same certification area is permitted to be hired.
Okay, can you read that
Does
again?
that, you might have captured it, if somehow.
I can actually, if you want, I can type it really quick and put it out on the computer, but it says, all teachers assigned to the pool will be assigned to positions in their certification area
Are we racing? In their certification area?
before an external candidate with the same certification area
All right, is hired?
is permitted to be hired.
Say it's hired.
Is hired, fine, is hired.
It's our job to argue. All right.
That's okay, is hired. And I would, I mean, I thought about trying to put something in there about advertising, but that just muddies the water. The bottom line is we control that by not allowing positions to be advertised in the certification area, for which I have somebody in the pool.
All right.
Would you live with that?
As a compromise, we live with that. We're getting security. That's a big step towards security for AC teachers. Now, we're stuck on our why not after 1 year. And some of our teammates and some of them may even talk some more about this idea. John talks about competitiveness with other counties.
And
Got a great candidate.
I agree with John.
If we've got a great candidate coming here from another place, they know Orange County is going to give them job security. Osceola and Indian River are going to give them job security. I want them looking at Brevard County.
I agree, because I want you to know personally, when I was a principal, I lost 3 teachers to next door to the charter school. I want to keep annual contract teachers that are very, very good. So it's not just outside districts, it's these charter schools too that come in and take our annual contract teachers because they can offer them more money, even though they don't offer comps and benefits, and we all know that whole gig.
Yeah.
They make up in salary, and then of course they don't have the retirement and all that other stuff. So I agree with John. We have to make our schools and our districts more attractive. But at the same time,
Yeah, and I want.
at the same time, though, we have to also not be so reckless that we offer contracts that are binding, that we will have to pay, but we can't afford to pay. And I know we're talking probationary period here.
Job security is not reckless, sir, but I want Jen to comment.
I understand, but it is in a sense when we offer a contract that's binding.
I just wanted to speak to the 1 and 3 year difference
Okay.
here, because I know that you keep saying, why would we be offering something different than what we even offer before the law?
Right, that's
However,
not right.
this still isn't going to be like receiving a professional contract. It's like you were saying, if a charter school pops up in the neighborhood and my school has to lose units, it is still going to be the annual contract teachers, whether they've been here for 10 years, that will be on that chopping block list.
That's a
So
good point.
it's not, I still don't have that same job security that I had with professional contracts. So
That's a
that-
good point. If we were willing to make a little wiggle room, would you all be willing to make a little wiggle room in the probationary period?
Well, we're here to negotiate.
Well, what I'm getting at is that, are we
Which is
hung up on
synonym of
3-1?
wiggle.
Could there be discussion on 2?
Well, here to discuss anything.
Well, I'm throwing out, could we compromise? Would it be acceptable? I mean, if all we're talking about is now, you are all like, the language is good that we put across the table other than the probationary period, and we could go to 2 years, would we be able to move past this and get on to other business today?
So you're, on hold on, Michelle, don't go, I just want to say your suggestion is in line 9, where it says of the 2 most recent, the suggestion is change it to 1. So basically the one you got and the one most recent, so that'd be 2 years. Is that,
You probably have to change the language a little bit more to make it make sense, maybe no less than effective final evaluation for the prior year.
for the prior year, okay, yeah, okay.
I don't think
So
you want
that's your-
one,
that's your
one
suggestion.
consecutive year, it'd have to be for
Right.
the prior year.
One consecutive years in a row, okay.
One consecutive
Got
year.
it. Michelle?
My thing with that is that if a principal has put in a year, invested in this new teacher, and has marked them effective or highly effective, that it shouldn't be a 2-year probationary period. Because at some point, if they're not effective or highly effective, then the principal needs to put needs improvement. And then at that point, they're not eligible.
Well, I
Again.
certainly agree. Now, I want to give you I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Okay, the other thing in that is that as a young person, which most of our new teachers are, as a young person, you want to come in and start getting your life settled. You've just graduated college, you want to get your career moving, you want to buy a house, you want to buy a car, you want that stuff moving forward. And if I can't get that in Brevard County, then I'm going to go to Orange County, or I'm going to go to Indian River County because I'm not married, I don't have ties to this county. I can drive an hour to see my mom if she lives here, and I'm going to go where it best suits me to get my career moving, and we've just lost a good annual contract teacher. Now, if they're not good, then the principal needs to put needs improvement.
All right.
I'll tell you what, we're gonna take a quick break.
All right.
I'm gonna drag my team outside.
All right.
We'll come back, limited amount of time here, not looking for another half hour, but I'm gonna come back quickly, and I'm either gonna say we're good, or I'm gonna say let's just put this aside
And move on.
and know that we gotta get to it.
All right.
Not put it aside, forget about it, but we're either gonna put it aside, or we're gonna have a something,
Okay,
okay?
sounds like a plan.
Okay, so let's out the door.
There's a whole lot of words to say there.
Okay, if you need to stand up and read, we tried to use our board here to insert some language for, yeah. This is our strategic plan language, Dan, for planning.
I'm afraid to sit if you block it. Am I blocking this group over here?
Yeah, but why is this you?
I wish Vicki knew how to tell us what was on her mind. Okay. Chance we can turn that off for a moment and wrap up the last issue where we are, and then give this its attention.
Yes.
And I thought you had a gizmo from there? Sorry, Deborah, I didn't mean to give you. Oh, very good.
Just shut up.
Is there a,
One more time.
Okay, when we had caucus, we were going to talk a little bit about reappointment of annual contract teachers. I think where we left in was, well, we're going to discuss whether probationary period needed to be 1 year versus 2 years.
We can't hear you over here, sorry.
What's that?
I can't hear you.
Oh, okay. We could have the audience pay attention, please, that way we can hear. Thank you. Where we left is we were caucusing over a probationary period of 1 year, and we had countered with 2 years. And we're hoping that you all were able to come to an agreement, and that you might be able to tell us that we could move forward with this language.
Okay, you're right, that's where we were, that was our assignment. And I told you we're gonna decide, we're gonna poll everybody quick, we're gonna talk, and then we're gonna come back in, and we're either gonna say, great, you know, we have an agreement, or we're just gonna agree to put it aside for a little bit. So we're gonna put it aside for a little bit. I have concerns, though, for when we bring it back up. If you like, I'll tell you the concerns now, just in case we have another opportunity like that we all end up. You wanna hear
And
them
I
now?
apologize to your team.
I know we
I've already
did.
done that, but I
Well,
want to
that's
go
okay. We
publicly.
understand.
Now that I'm on camera, I want to apologize. We meant not to caucus that long. It was only something that was only going to take about 5 minutes. Really, it was about you all deciding whether you liked our counter. In our caucus, we were getting ready to pass some language across to you all, put some things across the table, in which we found a mistake. That's why Judy and Karen have run back to their offices to make additional copies and to correct that mistake. I've always promised you all that when we negotiate, that I would never, ever put you all out there without a reasonable, excuse. And I apologize. We want to make sure that what we put across the table is correct, because we understand that you all have had a problem with trust in the past. And of course, we do not want to put something across the table, there be a mistake, and then pull it back and cause confusion. So that's why we took a little bit more time than expected on such what I consider a very simple issue. I apologize.
Well, thank you, Jim. We understand. I appreciate you taking the time to explain all that, but we're good. I know you want to get to that.
Well, we're going to table
Should
the
we?
AC, right? We're going to table AC, right?
Okay.
We'll come back to that
We got to
today.
get back to it.
Yeah.
I've got 3 concerns that I'm going to put with it.
All right.
And, let's see, so I guess right now, so we all know this planning time. We've had talks.
Well, were you going to explain to me what your concerns were with the annual contract? I mean, what?
Oh, did you want to hear them now, and then we'll table it?
Yeah, we won't discuss it, just tell me what they
Okay.
are, and then we'll.
Three very quick issues. The first is that we're not solving a problem that I don't know if I've described, well, Jen has described pretty well.
Okay, so we're not
But it's
solving
one
a
thing-
problem.
We're not solving a problem of, and again, you got some principals here will say, well, I don't do this individually, but we know this happens in the county. It's more than the exception to the rule. It
Okay.
happens, it has happened quite a bit.
All right.
Where principals will give the effective, and we get the explanation back channel somehow. We get the explanation that I knew there was a problem with this teacher's practice, but I gave the effective so I wouldn't have to deal with it, knowing the end of the year, I just don't have to take it back. And then the union's in a funny spot, because if we want to argue with the principal over that, what we're saying is that we want the principal to give less than effective. So we're in a funny spot. Do we really want to say that we want principals to go in there and start putting teachers on plans and fixing problems and mark things down and do all that work, where the teacher's at risk for potentially not finishing effective, which could really hurt their career? Do we really want to say that? Or do we want to just take the deal? Okay, fine, give them effective, that's fine, you didn't kill their career, we don't owe them a job, but they can still live to teach another day. Metaphor, of course they're living, but a metaphor. And this union is going to take the stand that, yes, we want an accurate evaluation. Because it's not good for kids, the deal that's currently going on. Where principal sees October, November, there's a problem and decides, we're just going to let it right out the year, I'll give them effective, off they go, we don't owe them anything. We want the district to fix the problem if it's a problem, get the help, go through the training, do everything needs to be done, and get that teacher to truly effective. And if they don't get them there, we understand the risk is that, well, if they really are needs improvement, then they really might not have a job. And that is our line. We want the evaluations to be accurate. And not anybody have to wonder about, did I just get effective even though my principal is just trying to pass me along? The other two will be much shorter. And this goes to Deborah's point about, we promise, we have language, we say that we will hire these people out of this pool. Well, it's also practice of this district that a job will be advertised along with a coaching thing attached to it. so I can be a great chemistry teacher. I'm a great annual contract chemistry teacher, and I'm in the pool, and there's a chemistry job out there, but the principal has attached chemistry plus baseball coach.
Okay, I get
And then
that.
the principal can say, well, you're a great chemistry teacher, but you're not a baseball coach.
So I'm not gonna hire off the list because I'm looking for a baseball.
I need a baseball coach to go with it. We've had some funny things placed through the years.
All right.
I need 2 sections of art, a section of math, assistant girls volleyball coach, and someone that can write IEPs. And we get, some funny jobs get posted. And the other thing I'll just add to it is that if it is a concern, I'm not saying if, it is a concern, since it's a concern of the district about what happens if we blanket reappoint too many folks, and now I've got, 5 teachers too many, or 10 teachers too many, or whatever, we could look at our RIF language. We could. I'm not bringing language to you right now, but I understand what you're saying. Your lawyer advised you that if you get into a situation where you've overhired by some teachers, we have RIF language. We don't like getting into it, we don't like talking about it, but it has to be there. And if we have to include annual contract teachers in it, and the RIF language kind of has a totem pole already in it. It talks about the order that it happens, and if we have to add annual contract teachers to it, then we'll just do that. If that relieves that concern about what if we promise too many jobs to too many people, and the charter school just stole 1,000 of our kids. All right, so I guess we'll agree that we'll put that aside for now, and then when we're ready to ache our brains a little more, we'll get back to that.
Yes, sir.
All right, this next topic you're bringing up comes out of, we've had a lot of talk, I've put a lot of hot air out about this, we have a very, very difficult topic that BFT never should have been brought into, but you brought language to the table saying that you want that 6 to 7 to continue. We have talked about how divisive that has been to our workforce. We have elementary school teachers for years that was passionate to them that they had one planning only. We have elective and activity teachers that are very passionate that they don't want to hear about a 6-period day
Okay.
because their jobs are wrapped up in that. And we have secondary teachers that have been the loudest this year, the most passionate this year, understandably, when that half penny failed. They lost half their planning and picked up a whole other class of students. And it's accurate that they took on the brunt of a half penny failing. The district came to this union and asked us, just in layman's terms, asked us to be accomplices in that, asked to put it into the contract. We ended up carrying the bad news with you. We got creamed over that. Got a lot of teachers, instead of losing, in addition to whatever trust was lost in the district, we got a lot of teachers angry with us particularly. Principals turned right around, told their teachers, general statement here, not picking on any particular principals, but principals in general explained it to their staffs that, well, your union negotiated this, that's why you're doing it. And I took the challenge of trying to explain to teachers that this was a financial reality, half penny failed. And I feel like I did a lot of dirty work for you guys. And if you're gonna come to me and ask me to continue it because of the financial reality, I'm telling you, and I think you're gonna give me your answer to it, that we need some kind of real plan to get everybody planning time.
Okay.
I'm not gonna go back to elementary school and say we solved the secondary problem. I'm not gonna go back to elective teachers and say, hey, we solved everybody's problem by you all getting laid off. We're going to come up with something that doesn't divide us further. We have a plan for everybody. So I guess you're ready to answer that challenge, or you gave us that challenge.
Yes, sir. We took it very seriously, and I'm prepared to say to you, representing, management side board, that we would put it in our strategic plan. You asked us, I think last week, we looked at either an MOU or strategic plan, and we're committed to put it in writing, to make it part of our commitment to our teacher and our workforce, that we look at planning, extended planning, more planning time for teachers during the workday.
And
You
so,
saw that, and we'll put it back up. I don't want to turn this back
Yeah,
on
we-
right now. because I know it flashes in your eyes, but we're willing to commit to that and work towards that.
Let's talk about some details there. Your plan said August of 2016.
All right?
So that's, where are we now?
That's negotiable.
We're August of 2014, right?
Yes, sir, but that's negotiable.
So that's the whole school year, whole 2 school years.
What would you like to
right?
see, Dan?
Well, I'd like to see relief start now. If it can't be as much as you've put there, I'd still like to see relief start now and then build a goal.
Good.
I mean, sometimes your strategic plan will have, this is a goal for now and then a longer term goal.
Strategic plan's being, right now, I think, printed or somewhere, and so it's already committed for 14, 15. What if we change that to, instead of say August of 16, August of 15?
Get my note taken out. Now, you're saying 100 minutes.
That's 20 minutes a day.
You know what the first thing teachers are gonna tell me?
What? What are they gonna tell you?
You know what they're gonna tell me?
Tell me what they're gonna tell me.
They're gonna say, I know what they're gonna do, Dan, you fell for it. Now they're gonna extend your day 20 minutes.
Well,
It said within the day.
within the day.
I know, yeah, within the day. So we're supposed to stay till 3. Now we're gonna stay till 3:20 for planning.
No.
That's what they're gonna tell me.
Okay, no, we're not doing that. You're not falling for anything, because you wouldn't do.
Walked into that bear trap.
I did.
No, I just, it's been set for me. You know what the next thing you're gonna tell me? So that's not me, that's not nice when I ask you this, I'm sorry, that's not fair when I do that. Next thing you're gonna tell me is that you've got language up there. I do my best to remember, but the board recognizes, the district recognizes, however you put it, collaborative, collegial, planning time, all work together. Somewhere, a couple years ago, the district stopped recognizing that teachers need to do stuff on their own. I've got English teachers out there that will sit there and they will say, Dan, here's how many students I got. And when I got a grade, and then here's how long they write, here's how long it takes me to grade, and they will multiply it out for me. They're English teachers, but they're handy with math, and they will tell me, here's how many hours you just added. So they don't want to hear that, oh, cool, I got another team meeting. I can go collaborate. And my principal can give me essential questions to answer for another 100 minutes a week. That's not what they want to hear. They want to hear on their own planning time. Because when they're sitting at night grading papers from 10 to 11, they're not, I'm glad I got the collaborative work. You know what I mean?
Tell me, help me understand, because I thought that if, and we agreed to the steering committee language last time that we met, that those issues were going to be addressed in the steering committee. Help me out, I mean.
Well, it's not, we're not
I'm
signing.
thinking we're looking at planning time here, and you're thinking that, you're taking me in a different direction, that we're talking about meeting time. I'm not sure.
Well, we're not going to sign stuff to steering committees, what they need to do, what they don't do. We agreed to that.
Well, but I mean, we
But what
agreed
teachers
that they could
what
bring that.
teachers are asking for is they want to be left alone. They want
Okay.
planning time,
Uninterrupted.
uninterrupted. If they want to go meet with someone. Susan, we got the same classes we're teaching, so can we meet third hour, work together on something? Okay, they're free to do that.
Okay,
But we don't, if my third hour, if you get more planning time from me and I choose to sit on my own and grade papers, or I choose to sit on my own and write in my planning book, I choose to set up my room, put together my lab, I want that time, I want that to be me time.
well, okay, let me come at you all, hearing what you all are saying. We're willing to put it in a strategic plan. We're even willing to say that we'll start next August, August 15. Okay? I mean, we're willing to do that. I know it said August 16, but we're willing to come down to the 16th. We would then, that would give us plenty of time to be able to work with you all to see exactly what it is that you all want. You all would be able to hear us on what planning time would look like. We're talking 100 minutes, 20 minutes a day. I don't think you and I right now could probably sit here and we'd spend all day not wasting
We
time.
could waste more than 20 minutes
But
on
you know what I'm
that.
saying, not wasting time, but having a million different discussions about what that might look like. We've got plenty of time now to talk about this. We could talk about it in October, because we've already agreed that we'll come back in October to talk. I mean, and remember, a strategic plan is just that, it's a plan, it's a working action. It's not anything that's written in kind of stone. Would you all would you all not agree that that might be the process that we spend a year talking about? Talking about it? Because if you all have concerns, we have concerns, that would give us much more, I think, give us
I gotta
much
go-
more
okay.
time to really go in depth about this to where we get it right.
I want to make sure you know what you're asking me to go to my teachers and sell. I already tried to tell, but it didn't fly. It didn't go well.
Are you saying
When I
that
tried
this
to-
is what you're gonna say to them?
No, well, I've already put out bargaining updates, Facebook, wherever. Already talked to my folks, already get their emails. If anything about email, they all know where that reply button is. And they tell me, so Dan, I mean, I explained to them, district doesn't have the 11 million for 5 to 7 for next year.
Oh, it's more than that. It's more than 11 million.
Well, because, we wanted planning for everybody.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to come back and say to you. Remember, I made a very passionate speech two sessions ago. If we had somewhere, I know your estimates were somewhere right around 13 or 14 million dollars. I think we're up around 17 million dollars, but let's just say it's 15, 16.
Is that the two planes for, were we talking 2 planes for everybody?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was looking
I'm
at
talking
14 for
elementary,
everybody.
everybody.
Okay.
Remember, I said to you all, that's where if we have great days next year, we get a windfall of money and everything just goes and falls into perfect place. Are we really going to commit between 15 and 17 million dollars just to planning and not give 1 single cent to a teacher in their raise or in their pocketbooks? Now, that's what I mean, when you say I want to go back and talk to my teachers, that's the conversation you need to have with your teachers. If that's our commitment, and we're willing to put it into the strategic plan, and we're willing to spend another year now looking at our budgets and really looking at where folks are going to be spending their money, and that happens, I don't want you to use it against me without me saying this across the table and to the folks that are listening in our audience and the folks who are watching this as we stream. If that's really what we want to do, fine, we can do that. But I don't want it to be used against us that we're not paying teachers raises when we got $17 million sitting out there that could have gone to raises. And I want to say this, in talking to some of my teachers, they've gotten over the fact that, and some, not all, have gotten over the fact that now they've realized this is reality.
They check the rest of the state.
What's that?
They check the rest of the state, and know the rest of the state's on 6 or 7.
That's right.
except
They've
for
gotten
2
over this and
counties.
realized, you know what, I need to get past this. I would rather see that money being spent towards insurance and, you know, and towards me receiving a lot more money in my paycheck than me going back and getting an additional planning period and knowing how much money is going to have to be spent to get the elementary people up to snuff, to be able to get that. I've had real conversations with people in my office saying, that's not what I want. But I know that you represent different, maybe a different
Well, I told you we're
folk out there
divided.
that want that.
I told her there's a divided, conflicting needs. I don't think
Yes.
any teacher wants to see another teacher get hurt. I don't mean we're divided in that sense.
No, I don't either. I don't
But we're
wanna make that
divided
picture.
in that there's different needs of different folks. And just to bring up everyone in the audience and whoever's watching, when I say 11 million for planning, that was our rough estimate of 5 of 7 at secondary. And then I had estimated for about 3 million more, we could do the same for elementary, get them on 2 plannings. And you're suggesting it would be more
Oh,
than
it'd
that
be
3
more than
million?
that.
It'd be in that, I guess you're
Yeah.
saying 6 million
Yes, it
range.
would be.
So, so I've already had the talk with folks about, you know, there's not the money next year for 5 to 7. We've had that talk, that's a tough talk to have.
Mhm.
It doesn't always go happy.
Right.
People upset about that. So we have to give them something real. And I appreciate, we're talking in terms of everybody. Because very quickly, I get those emails from the elementary school teachers too that say, why is this the biggest deal in the world? Just what you're saying, I want money. I get the secondary teachers will go to it and say, get me on a 6-period day. Elective teachers come in, because they know there's
Right, there's a downside.
an
to that.
involvement in that. So, this is why we need something real right now for everybody. So where we are, you're suggesting, we go through a year. You're not giving us a plan for this school year coming up, but you're saying by next August, we will come up with, the board will come up, the board's committed, it's in writing, which means it happens. Strategic plan is something that happens 100 minutes during the week for planning time, and you've heard my value about uninterrupted time.
What I want to make sure I say correctly across the table is that you need a reason why we're not putting it in the plan this year. And that is because, when I was whispering to Ms. Pace, is I want to make sure, I think our plan, like a school, our strategic plan is like our school improvement plan. Now, for the better say what a strategic plan is, that's what it is. I want to make sure that we've already established goals for this year. So we can't go back and, without going through board approval and all of that, it would be too cumbersome right now. That's why I'm willing to say, as we move into this year, which we're going to have discussions this year about planning here. It's not like we'd be sitting around not discussing it. So that it gets into the strategic plan so that it's printed and ready to go and be ready to go to the public on August 15th. Okay?
All right.
So that's the reason. You all need to have a reason. I would never come to you all and not give you all a reason.
I'm going to toss out.
That's the earliest we can maybe put this in.
I'm going to toss out a counter,
All right,
just to bat around.
okay.
And we'll go off and we'll all go talk. I'll let y'all talk about our counter. We'll go talk too. Actually, what I want to do is I want to open up to, I want to toss out some ideas here, and then I want to see who all wants to say something. Okay. A couple of years ago, we started early release Wednesdays. That was
Okay.
negotiated.
Uh-huh.
That was a strategic plan that was negotiated. We did one a month. Mostly positive. People have, there's, and the only reason why I'm positive, not to beat up the bus guy, but we had some schools, they didn't get the benefit of the full hour. You can only do what you can do. That wasn't a cheap shot at the busing, but you can only do what you can do. There were some schools that said, by the time it works at our building, it's not a full hour,
Okay.
such as it is. So that was the feedback I got on that. A lot of people appreciate it. Some people said, by the time you make the Cockamamie Bell schedule during the day, it's not worth it to rush through. But for the most part, I think people appreciate it. Based on a successful thing once a month, then the district added 4 more professional development. With all due respect,
Okay.
that did not fly as well.
All
To
right.
some extent it flew, the district had some needs to do some professional development, but it didn't fly as well.
All right.
Teachers were always calling us, is this one that we get the time to do what we need to do, or is this I gotta go sit through another Thinking Maps presentation? Because we don't know what a thinking map is yet after hearing it 12 times. So, or I gotta go sit through another, my principal's gonna lay out their PGP and give us more work to do. So that one didn't fly as well. A lot of teachers gave the feedback that we wish we had that time for ourselves for what we need to do. Not, again, don't take that as we're allergic to professional development or that we're not appreciative of the points or appreciative of the training. A lot of it's really good. I don't want your trainers mad at me that thinking that they're not worth it. Of course they are.
I'm not taking any offense to it.
Okay. This 100-minute plan, we could get more than half of that right now
Okay.
in this contract.
Talk to me.
If this district looked at what our surrounding counties do, and much of the state of Florida does, which is a weekly early release.
So you want a weekly early release?
We could get a weekly early release. First of all, it saves the problem of principals having to advertise this Wednesday is, this Wednesday isn't. And because that drives some people batty. you've got the daycare in place, parents are used to it. When a couple of years ago, when we started this, it was explained to us, we can't do it weekly, but we'll roll it out incrementally and see how we like it. Well, I'm ready to tell you, teachers, for the most part, are positive on it. The professional development didn't go over as well. Still positive, but it didn't go over as well. Teachers like the idea of I get an hour to get my work done. It's not directed, it's not another meeting. It's not a give me the minutes of my team meeting. It's a, I can work, I can be alone and do some work. It's an hour left, it's at 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, I actually get to relax with my family instead of grading papers for that hour.
Right, yours?
So 15, so for this upcoming school year, early release every Wednesday. That's a big ask. All right, y'all gave me a big ask last year. Okay, about near tore apart this union. And that's how big an ask y'all gave me, and I went along with it. Talk about trust, I went along with that. So y'all can step out the box a little bit and consider that. August 15, we figure out what the other minutes are gonna be to get up to the other 100. And let's say by August of 16, of course, all these dates are negotiable. But how about the board by August of, by not this school year, not next school year, but by the next school year?
Talking about 2016.
I'm talking about by August 16, we get to a point where schools are ready to have site-based decisions on what kind of school they want to be.
What does that look like?
I don't know. As in, no, I do, I'm sorry. That was too cheap to say.
Site-based decisions.
Site-based decisions, I mean, first of all, every school right now has a decision, well, no, let me back that up. Schools for years had the decision if they want to be block or not. Schools for, and I'm talking secondary schools, had the decision, if they wanted to be a block, they could site-based, work on that, figure it out, and decide to be block, or I was actually at a school that was on block, got off block. All right? Right now, it'd be tough for school to go on block because there's a commitment from the district for, not all that much planning time. So let's return to that by August 16. If the school wants to go on block, they can go on block. If the school wants to go 5-7, they can go 5-7. If an elementary school wants to have 2 plannings, they can have 2 plannings. With the understanding that if your school is going to be one that has 2 plannings, well, Jim, you explained it very well. If your school is going to be a 2-planning school, you understand it's going to cost us some salary dollars to do that. You may have some schools that say, we want the raises, we're okay 6-7, give us the salary. You may have some schools that say, I like working here because I'm on 5-7, and I don't mind if the pay is a little bit less. The state wants us moving towards differentiated pay anyway. I get the feeling from the legislature they'd like it if no two teachers got the same paycheck. Is that not where the legislature's going here? They'd also like us fighting in the parking lot over who's doing a better job, but anyway, that's political commentary there.
All right.
So that's a counter to your thing. Most immediate, I think, you talk about is moving to that right now. Moving to early release right now. Now, as you have that, you're gonna sit there and go, wow, Dan just asked for a lot. But I need you all to consider that you have asked your secondary teachers for a whole lot more than what I just asked for. You asked me to be an accomplice in a whole lot more than what I should have been an accomplice in. You had a middle school with a popular principal this year where 9 teachers walked out during the year. You had a STEM teacher featured in Florida today who had a heart attack during the year. You've got people basing their decision on staying in this profession, on what you can do for them for planning time. So with all that said, maybe I didn't ask you for a whole lot.
Okay, I mean, the very
Should we
first thing, the very first thing that I need you all to consider, I mean, we'll caucus over this, we'll take it seriously. Here's the thing that I think that you all have to recognize right now, that even though we're negotiating this, the 2014-15 schedule is already committed to, it's already been published and communicated with our parents and our students. athletic events and activities already been scheduled.
You could slap that together.
Well, you may say we can slap that together, but when the public recognizes that, all right, all of a sudden, Brevard Public Schools just told me that now I've got a plan for another early release Wednesday, and I've got daycare and childcare and all the other things that are associated with elementary schools and all of that that I've got to contend with. That's not something you slap together and put together. That's not communicating effectively with your public, and it's not treating them with respect. Also recognize that we're going for them and a half-cent sales tax initiative come October, November. You don't want to dismiss those people and have poor communication and do something, I'm not saying recklessly, but I think that if we were to do this, that's not, it would be reckless. We'll discuss it. I believe if we caucus over this, my folks are gonna say immediately, we can't do it this year. It could be something we might look into doing next year, because then we give everybody plenty of time to communicate what it is that we want to do and why.
You
So I want you to
understand,
know-
I
want you
need
to
my
know
teachers
that-
happy this year.
Well, I understand that.
I don't even happy a year from now.
But it's not just more about, there are other people that have to remain happy too. We've already got schedules in place for lunches, we've already got things in place for buses, we've got things, like I said, I've got coaches that have already set their schedules for events, that they're gonna rush out on those Wednesdays that we don't have early release. This is not just about just teachers. I've got to worry about the whole system and how it operates, works, and what we communicate to our public. We're held accountable by them. So yeah, I want to make teachers happy, but at the same time, I can't just, I can't agree to doing something that right now has not been communicated effectively.
Well, starting the first week, that's negotiable, whether or not it starts first week or not. I mean, if you need some time to communicate, you think there's a start of schools when we explain to folks and it doesn't start, you know, if you tell me, look, Dan, it's gonna take a couple months to notify and inform and get all this going, then it takes a couple months to notify and inform. I can't go to my teacher and say, great news, I got you some kind of relief for a year from now.
Yeah, you could.
Well, I could.
Yes, you could. You could easily explain why.
Birds
That's,
picking over my
that's,
carcass.
I mean, you
but,
know, that's, it's July 23rd. I mean, you don't, I mean, if we were gonna really discuss an early release Wednesday for every week, I think that should have happened much sooner than on July 23rd.
Jim, when we first did early release a couple contracts ago, we didn't settle till into the school year, and we started in the spring. In fact, I think we settled in the spring. It took us a couple months lead time, and then we got it going. I mean, I think
I remember that.
I think those first early releases, we settled like December, January, something like that, and we started early release in March.
And it was,
So-
I will tell you this.
It was
that-
after football season, but, you know, it's still, it doesn't take that much. You're gonna have to give me a better reason than that.
Well-
That's what I'm telling you.
No, what I want to say to that is this. I think looking back on that, and if you would ask this team right here, we took a hit on that. We did it, but we learned from our mistakes that we had probably forgotten that we have people out there, families that really counted on us not to do something like that. We got feedback, negative feedback on how we proceeded. Yeah, we scored points with the teachers, but we learned through that mistake that we can't rush into a contract just to settle a contract and give something that really truly affects families.
Jim, there's no hit. And I'm not saying this to exaggerate. I've had people look at me and say, Dan, I never know when you're serious. I'm as serious as I can be right now. And I'm not exaggerating. There is no hit that this district has ever taken. I include the failure of the half penny. There is no there's no hit that this district has ever taken that's bigger than what this workforce took when they got moved to 6 to 7. And whatever any chief negotiator in your seat ever thinks they took for bad PR, there is no hit that this bargaining team, I know we're all a team, this side of the table ever took. It's when we were accomplices of 6 to 7.
I agree. I will.
And so this is big. This is not, boy, wouldn't it be nice. This is, you've got a lot of wounds out there from a lot of teachers out there. And I say, well, yeah, go move to Orange County, you'll do the same thing. That doesn't work for them.
Dan-
Our schools are supposed to be a little bit better.
Right. I want to say this, though. You are correct. You know and understood, though, through the budget constraints of why we had to move from 6 to 7. Because if we hadn't moved from 6 to 7, it would have been a much larger, much more larger group of people. And we're not talking just annual contract teachers, would have lost their jobs. Because we would have had to gone into RIF language. You all understood that as a bargaining unit, and we understood it as management. Nobody liked the fact where we were 2 years ago at this table. But we had to do it. So let's not think that we just did this because we wanted to save 14 million bucks. We did it because we had to do it. We had to carve $33 million out of our operating. And it was either going to be that, or it was going to be that we had to RIF PSC teachers. And I want the audience to understand that. That's what it really came down to. You know that. Let's not sit here and just parse words. It came down to jobs. So I don't want our team or the board or anyone to feel like we're accomplices and that we were guilty in what we did because we did it because we just wanted to do it. Let's make sure everyone understood what it is that we had to do. We had several bad options and we chose the least one that would work for our district. And I was one of those principals at that time that had to lose 22 teachers here at Vieira High School. 22. We could go down the list. I'm sure if you asked Barry, and you asked Rob, and if you were to ask Jane when she was over at Tropical, and you were to ask Ken how many teachers they had to lose, it was phenomenal. But we did it because if we didn't go to 6 or 7, we would have been talking probably, at my school, probably 30 teachers. Does everybody understand that?
Unfortunately, no.
Well.
On our team, we do. I mean, the people at this table
Well, that's
understand.
why putting something like right now where people are streaming and watching us on TV, audience that maybe is listening, who is maybe hearing this for the first time, needs to hear it. I understand it was a big hit for your union. I understood it personally affected your life, affected Jen, and I'm certain that your president,
Well, this whole
Richard
team.
Smith, had heartburn over that. But I want you to also know that every principal in this district, every administrator in this district had heartburn as well. Maybe not as much as you guys, and I'm going to say that, I have empathy. But we are back here at the table right now having to try to think about how we are going to spend or get back into a place where we restore you all whole. And that is, you all want planning time. And you guys want, and you brought to us your concerns. You want 2 planning periods for every teacher. And right now, in today's dollars, it's going to cost about $17 million. And it's going to be understood that if we ever get $17 million in this district, it won't go towards pay, it'll go towards planning period, if that's what you all want.
Well, that's why I want to be,
Now,
Local
we can look
decision.
at creative ways, and you've given me a creative option. Additional planning time during early release every day for this coming school year. I've countered with the fact that I don't think at this point we could do that because we've set calendars, people have made plans, and I can almost assure you that, I'm not going to say no, but I can almost guarantee that the answer would be we can look into doing this next year if we consider it.
well, I
So
bet.
you got to go to your folks, explain it to them, and say, look, we're working on that.
Well, the reason we're here over the summer is to get some in place over the summer. And that's why we can always get it. I mean, if you tell me, look, Dan, I don't know if I can get this out to parents for the first week of school, or the first couple weeks of school, I mean, that makes sense to me. I can't buy that we can't notify parents. I know RV has, I mean, the bus schedule's already done. He knows how to run buses on early release Wednesday. And everyone else, and not just you. I mean, you have plans in place for how to run early release Wednesday. Parents have plans for their kids. Other districts do this. That's why we're here still a month before Christmas. I could see if we're sitting here in October like we normally are. By the way, give you some credit because we are trying to get this done over the summer. But we're sitting here in October saying, let's ratify 3 weeks ago to the board and start it next week in the middle. I could see that, but I think you've got the lead time to put something together right now.
All right, well, why don't you allow us to discuss it, and then we can come back and either say yea or nay.
Just to summarize, I like it. I like it. I'm taking what I can get. 100 minutes for a year from now, 20 minutes a day. Again, I know who's going to tell me how long the papers take to grade, and I'm not putting that down. Okay, sometimes I know I get a little sarcastic up here, and someone somewhere's going out there and takes.
I like your sarcasm.
You like the sarcasm? Thank
I'm
you.
all right.
I'm glad someone said.
Breaks up the monotony.
But
Yeah.
really, I don't want to downplay these issues. I mean, we dropped a lot on teachers. I can sit here and complain about me, oh no, people mad at me. No, teachers in the classroom that have the extra hour a day of teaching, they're the ones we're trying to get some relief for. So.
All right, why don't you let us talk about it and see what we can do?
All right.
I need 45 minutes. See, sarcasm.
Judy, we'll come back, talk about steering committees for a little bit, and then.
No, I get to put something across the table now. Come on now.
Okay.
I've got a list over there too. So we're looking at this one, and then we'll go on to my list, and then we come back. All right? I'll put
Okay.
things across. So,
And meanwhile, Judy's blowing up the coffee or somewhere?
yeah. All right, give us 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Take 12.
15 minutes. All right, Dan, okay, we had good talk in our caucus just now. We're willing to add, and we have added something to the strategic plan that would allow us to address this. We'd like for you to give it consideration. Dan, we can't make a commitment to do every Wednesday this calendar year. We're not gonna be able to do that. All right? We will look at what it is that I said that, and what you've asked us to consider. We know that you need additional planning time. Please take a look at what we've offered here for the strategic.
I saw it, I'm not trying to be defiant, I mean, I saw what you got. So you're gonna look for additional time this year, that's the commitment, is to look for additional time. And by next year, your goal is to get 100 minutes.
Right. Look, if you're not willing to accept this, then we're willing to table it just like we would with the previous thing, and we got to move on.
Well, okay, well, you want a sentence change in the contract, and we're gonna have something to change the sentence so we can get a contract. So, I mean, we could table it, just so we know what table doesn't mean put it aside and never deal with it. I mean, we have to get it dealt with. Sometime. So I think what we need is more specific, provide additional time for uninterrupted planning. We need some, that needs to come into focus,
Dan,
what that means.
I want to say this to your team and to you. I have been very patient with you all, okay? And I totally want you to know, I believe in the collaborative spirit, but I also believe that you all have to play fair with me in the sandbox. I have put language across the table in which I bring you language of what I want it is that I want you to change. I want you all as a team, I'm tasking you with the team to bring us language and that you counter what it is that we've given you. I can't say that, I'm a little aggravated right now. You've got me up there with a laundry list of things. You're saying to me, well, here's our language, and now you want us to go back and change it. No, you go back and change it.
Okay.
You go back and bring me language, you bring me language, and then we'll go from there. But I want you to know that's what we've offered. That's what we've asked you to do. I'm a little aggravated. I like to take a break, okay? I'd like to take a break. Thank you.
How long
I like to take at least 10 minutes. I want you all to go talk. I want you all to come back. I want you all to treat me with a little bit more respect and have something in writing that you can counter with what it is that with what you've given me.
All right.
I want a break.
11:20, come back?
Yeah.
All right. Jim, go ahead, go first.
I would like to address your team, my team, and the audience. I don't want there to be any kind of perception that Dan and I are bargaining out of the sunshine, especially those folks who just came and took a picture of us. Board Statute 447 clearly says that when we bargain in the sunshine. But it also has provisions in there that says that if the bargaining negotiators don't understand or don't quite see or have questions, we're allowed to sidebar. That's not bargaining out of the sunshine. That's bargaining in the sunshine. And so when I asked Dan, hey, I need to speak with you one-on-one, it's not because we are negotiating the contract, it's because I'm trying to get clarification on where we're going so that when I come back to the table, I know how and where to go. So I want to make sure that if folks are posting anything on Facebook or they're making any mention that we're bargaining out of the sunshine, that is completely false. That's wrong, and that's slanderous to the board, and it's slanderous to the union. Negotiations are tough enough. They are difficult. They are processes. They are fluid. And I've used that word, I used it last time, fluid. There has to be time where Dan and I can speak one-on-one to where we can make sure that we're clear on where we're going so that it benefits both people he represents, but it also allows me an opportunity to represent management. So Dan and I, when I stepped out and wanted a break, and I asked for Dan to step outside, it was clearly to make sure that we were clarifying our issues, where we were going, how we were going to proceed. Because we, as I've stated, would like to get a contract here in the next, either today or our next session. Dan, do you agree?
Yes.
Do you have any comments?
I completely agree with that. There is very easy to, well, put anything you want out there on Facebook or Twitter or, well, that's as far as I go on social media, but it's very easy to put anything you want out there. And we do our best to notify accurately, and we know that there's people out there dedicated to subverting the truth and putting out misinformation. And we know that from last bargaining, when we negotiated a raise. It was put out that it was a bonus. And that kind of misinformation, representing yourself as an official voice, is not productive to anyone. Certainly not productive to informing teachers or helping with morale. So, with that said, Jim, you gave us a challenge. The bigger challenge is to try to get this done today. I agree. What we're finding, and this is, I bet every chief negotiator anywhere in the world finds this out as they sit at the table and try to work out something, is sometimes you take a little thing and go, man, okay, 10 minutes, we'll knock that out. And then 6 hours later, you're like, well, okay,
Right.
we're finally done. I think we did, Barry Rubble, we did comp time better part of a year to revise about 2 pages of contract language.
Long time.
And then how demoralizing is that when you put it together, you take a year to do it, and then you start getting phone calls. What does that mean? You go, oh.
Right.
But we're really not trying to make this take forever. When we listed our done, that was meant to make us realize how much we've gotten done. That was meant to, a little bit of self-congratulatory. The to-do was not meant to demoralize the crowd, but you'll see I've got 3 stars up there. Those are the 3 big ones. Some of these are just going to be quick knockout issues here. For example, brought a piece of language on mileage. I'm not suggesting right now, but I'm suggesting how fast this will be. You'll explain what that's about. If we have an objection, we'll give you an objection. If we don't, we're done. That really should be a couple minutes. All right? I don't just, anybody watching here, I don't want you to think, well, boy, if they're taking an hour to do planning time, this must be 12 hours of work. All right? Tuition reimbursement. We just need an update from you on when all that meeting's gonna, we already agreed on that. We just need to know if y'all have a meeting set or not, and that's that. Just keep us updated. And some of these other things as well. Comp time, we gave you some language. That'll be hopefully a quick discussion. I'm almost ready to check off data collection based on some information that I got yesterday. If you would like that information, we might be able to knock that out right now.
Okay. I think you said-
Actually, that would be a little out of order, but Anyway, except the ones there with the star, actually, I think, well, yeah, I think they're all gonna be really fast, except the ones with the stars, and that's what we're tearing into right now. So I don't want anyone looking at that list going, oh, man, if it's 1 hour per issue, I guess we're here till October. No, we're gonna knock that out quickly. All right, why don't I give you, what we talked about in the spirit of trying to settle something, and then we'll see if we can't knock out data collection as a quick win-win. Larry had something over there.
I just have one thing I want to say quickly. I've been doing this for 12 years. This is the first year that I have felt that, and by the way, let me see, are we going to agree on everything? No. But we are working together so much more than we have ever done before. I really appreciate the side that the board is doing that we're being listened to, and are we going to agree on everything? No, but we're working things out now, and this is the best, most cooperative atmosphere that this bargaining team has ever been involved in. So I just want to thank everybody on both sides for doing it.
That means a lot coming from you. That right there, thank you, Larry. Well, that really does mean a tremendous amount to me, because
Larry
I-
wakes up angry.
I sometimes, I got a little frustrated, but that makes me feel much better. I agree, and yeah, let's just get past where we were 30 minutes ago. Let's bang out some of this stuff.
Let's say something positive here, which is, we've never before at the table had a solution to a problem include the strategic plan. And I want everyone to know why that means something in a positive way. Usually, when we can't get a piece of contract language for immediate relief, it usually ends with the district team telling the union team how much y'all appreciate us, how much you like us, how much you want us to go to our teachers and tell our teachers that we're appreciated, we're liked. And then teachers go to the union and say, well, so that means you lost that issue, right? In this case, for the board to take it seriously enough that they're gonna put it into their plan to actually do it. The strategic plan is where things actually happen, as opposed to we love you guys and we wish we could do more. So I appreciate that the board is actually, you've talked to the board's actually come back and said, we're gonna put this in our plan. A year from now, we're gonna find you 100 more minutes of planning time within your workday. I already gave you my concern. I don't wanna add another 100 minutes to the workday, okay? But if we're gonna do that, that's fine. I wanna commit to verbally, we don't have to write this down, but let's commit that we're gonna come back in October. And we're gonna start looking at ideas.
I agree with that.
You have it in the strategic plan.
Yes.
That we're gonna start looking for stuff this year. The burden's on us, and I accept that burden, that we're gonna start surveying some best practices. We already know some things going on in elementary schools, where those teachers have some creative ways to get themselves more planning. The kids are covered, and they've already got some best practices. And we'll see if we can't talk about those and institutionalize those, and with or without contract language, if we can't move some of that stuff as the year goes on. I really want the more early release days, but I'll tell you it's a mixed bag. Some teachers just as soon not have them, so I'm not telling you it's 100% that we want them. If you can't slap it together for August, my next question was January. You already said you won't. I don't like that. You're stuck, but I'm not gonna let that stuck in getting us a contract.
Can we have discussions in October? That would give us an opportunity to talk about January forward to spring.
If we talk in October about starting in January, that's a good thing.
I think that's a great compromise. I'll tell you why. We didn't know that early release would be a discussion. Obviously, we went from planning period to early release. That caught us totally off guard. And we understand it, no, we get it. And it might be that's where we could get creative with how we could create more time.
Now,
I
here's,
think the time is the essence here, that we need time to be able to process this and think how it would work.
now, I want you to realize, okay, I'm backpedaling here, but I need you to give me something. All right, I'll tell you what, don't worry, you don't have to wonder about it. I'll put aside early release for the whole year. I'll put aside getting it for January, we'll agree, we'll talk about it in October. Somehow I gotta explain to teachers that that was a good thing to do, but I'll go do that. They could be mad, that's okay, I'm over it. But let us know that the early releases we currently have will be for uninterrupted planning time. As in, even those 2 or 3 that we have in the fall that are scheduled for professional development, give them back to us for planning time.
We discussed that, Dean. And we need further discussion on that.
You and I need further discussion, or you need discussion?
No.
No, we want a contract today.
I want you to know that I need further discussion with my team on whether or not, we had talked about that during our
I asked all your team members, they're all okay with it, they all agree.
Not precisely, but.
Ken was the last holdout, he
Yeah,
told me it was
yeah.
good. Thank you, Ken.
All right, here,
Not even a smirk, okay.
here
that's
are our
fine.
concerns with giving back some of those professional development days, because we thought that that might be a fair way in which we could get through this and give a little, and give a little.
Give me something here.
All right, this is, but you need an answer. I told you, the real reason why we talked about that. We understand, you all understand that there's a new platform that we're having to roll out this year to kind of get teachers familiar with True North Logic, Progo, and all the other,
Okay.
all those things that, it's a brand new system. We're not going to be able to bring teachers out of the building to be able to go through that training. So we were going to use some of those early release days to be able to train teachers in our building how to use this system. Principals are being trained right now. In fact, tomorrow, I'll spend all day talking about the new IPAS training and training principals so that they can go back and do building level, PD with the teachers. We're afraid to give away some of those days because if we give them away, then how are we going to really effectively teach teachers how to use the new system?
Pre-planning.
Dan, we didn't have enough time here in pre-planning. We've already taken one in-service, we've taken a day and given it to teachers for PD. You all own 40 hours, we own 40 hours. There's just no way that we can do what Ken, I know that, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, you had even mentioned how just difficult it's going to be during pre-planning, and I don't know if you jotted
Well,
anything down.
I just started mentioning some of the things to you earlier about what we were trying to cover during pre-planning.
Yeah.
With the new assessment tools that are going out there in Common Core or Florida Standards, the advanced ed surveys that we're being asked to begin and then follow through with Performance Matters, Progo. There's tons of things.
Right. Now, Dan, I want you and your teachers out there in the audience to understand, the reason that we have this system is because we've heard you all about taking things off of your plate. And it may sound just with what he just said, wow, they just added a bunch onto our plate.
Yeah.
All right. Let's try to understand, though, that we know that if I can give a teacher all of the things that he or she needs at their work desk, at their desk, you know what I'm saying? In which they're working on their own time or whenever they plan, work on their own time to get these things done, then I don't need to call them to a meeting. There's no need for a face-to-face meeting. For instance, during pre-planning, you know how we used to have, there are these required things that we have to do, and we just required by law that we have to do. We've got it all loaded up on our True North Logic system, ready to go, in which the teacher can do it on their own time, electronically, and they sign off with an electronic signature.
Like
They
what?
do
Like,
it-
help me out. Like what?
Oh my gosh.
I mean,
There's 11 things. Bloodborne pathogens, ethics, I can get down, there's 11 things, there's 11 things.
All the training, mandatory training.
Mandatory trainings, all the to where I don't have to have a faculty meeting for half a morning in which I say, all right, sign this form, all right, do this. I can basically bring you in, welcome you all, go through the quick, down and dirty of how we're going to accomplish all the 11 or 12 things that are on our checklist that have to be done and send you out. You can spend Monday through Wednesday doing them. You have PD on Thursday, and then if you come back in the building on Friday, you can do them then.
All right,
So
that's good.
What I'm trying to get at is, what Ken said is, we want to spend time during early release Wednesdays going through that process so that come spring and come next year, you will be able to say to us, hopefully you'll be able to say to us, you all listened, you took things off our plate, you made it easier on our teachers. But that's the reluctance of why we don't want to give up some PD days during early release Wednesdays, because we're going to need them. We have to explain that to teachers, and if we don't have that time, then we're dead in the water. I'm ready to say something, Miss, I want you to
Okay.
know.
I'll go to some- all right.
And this may be a good segue into it. You all had asked us last time to look at that last day, making it discretionary time for teachers. I'm willing to give that to you. All right, so can you see that we need to talk in October about early release Wednesdays to see, one, where our training is with our teachers, to see how they understand our new systems. And then, Dan, we can come back to something in the springtime. If we have a PD in springtime that we feel like we can say, you know what, we don't need it, we'll give it to you, then we can do that. But I can't do that right now. And I'm working with you.
Just toss, this isn't negotiating for contract language. I just want to toss out something so everybody hears it. Because Lord knows it's already out there. Here's a concern that teachers, here's a classic trap that I hope you don't fall into. Okay? Teachers been hearing for years, we have some technology now to make something easier. So, hey, really, hey, it did, it made something easier. Something's off my plate. Something fills in right away. All right, here's the exact example from what you're talking about. It's all good what you said, but I want to say here's a trap that we could be setting. Pre-planning is 20 hours of teachers, 20 hours for principals. I know you have professional development in your summer, but I mean, traditionally, you have
It's in the
principals.
20 hours. That's-
Principals control your 20 hours, teachers control their 20. Teachers can go work on their own, get their own stuff done. All right? But now you just gave me a list of things in a positive way, and I took it in a positive way. Here's all things that now principals can say, okay, guys, usually we sit and do this video, the ethics policy, and here's all sorts of things that usually we do on my time.
I see.
But now you go watch it on your own time, it's right there at your computer, go take care of it, we don't have to narrate you through it, it's something, and when you watch it, you'll electronically sign off, it's done. I'm just assigning a number, let's say that's 3 hours worth of stuff. I would have been sitting in a faculty meeting for 3 hours, instead I go do it. All right? So I had 20 hours of my own time to work on my own, to set up my room and make my plans and get my headline, I had 20 hours for that. Now the principal just assigned me stuff to do. Now the time the principal just saved from the faculty meetings, the principal doesn't have to meet with me that long. My principal doesn't have to stare at me now for 3 hours in my seat. This principal now have 3 more hours worth of stuff to fill in. What's going to fill in that time? Or can I really, will the faculty meetings really be shorter so I can go do that stuff? That's going to be a concern of teachers. Now, again, we didn't intend today, right? We made a list. We didn't think we were going down that road, but well, somehow we ended up down there.
We ended up down here because I needed you all to understand clearly why we weren't willing to give the early release Wednesdays, professional development days. You all needed a real reason. I've always said to you from day one that I would give you a real reason why we were saying no. I've given you a real reason. I'm not saying that in October, we couldn't say, you know what, we don't need the other 2 or 3 or wherever they are. We don't need them. We're good now. I understand what you just said, and I get that. I get it. I think that's further discussion for Ms. Pace and Dr. Respis and I to have, to make sure that if we carve out and make it easier on teachers, we don't then supplant that with other meetings. I hadn't thought of that, Rick. It's a real concern and I hadn't thought.
All right. You know how we have an MOU somewhere?
Dan, we have a lot.
Is it on the list right here? Well, we have an MOU somewhere that says that first early release day that teachers own will be for PGP development. Right? We signed up.
No meetings, sir.
No meeting zone, just work on your PGP. Go somewhere, and no one's getting in trouble if not working on their PGP. Okay, but we get it. What if we were to say those early release days for PD will be for training on the new software programs? And then if principals happen to get it trained and teachers are happy with it, then they can have that time on their own. We just add that to the MOU.
I mean, then we'd have to discuss that.
Okay. I need something. I need before, see, that's a
We
big old,
just gave you discretionary day.
well, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry for interjecting.
Well, thank you.
That's what I'm saying.
We appreciate it. We got your thank you for it.
Yeah, look, we need, we put it in the strategic plan, we're moving.
Let's see if we can wrap up all this happiness in one big happy bundle, okay? We're gonna put that one, we know where we are. We're still dedicated to get stuff done today. We took that issue almost to the final exit. And, are there any other issues we need? Oh, money. We're getting there. Oh, actually, you know what? Before we do money, let's do a quick win-win. Someone came to me yesterday at the board meeting. Maybe watching the tape, or maybe you all communicated back, but they heard that we appreciated and we liked the work that Lynn Spadaccini did out of the curriculum department, looking at all the standardized testing and really considering what was absolutely needed and what time could be given back for instruction, and asked if I was interested in something like that happening for data collection. And I said, that would be great, just that commitment that you all will do that, and put the same effort and vigor into that. You know, include teachers, which you did. You didn't necessarily come to BFT and say assign us teachers. You all just went out, got teachers, made a focus group. I don't know where they came from, but they're somewhere in this county. You did it and made a good proposal. So I said, go do that for data collection, and then I don't feel like I need to propose contract language for that. So, Jim, we're good. I'm gonna cross that off because I got a commitment from someone at the county that's gonna happen.
Sounds great.
All right, so, see, that was quick. Some issues take 3 hours and some take a minute.
All right, I want you all to take a look, at least look at the language that I passed out this morning before we get to money. We've looked, and we spent a lot of time on girls' list, now it's time to get down to looking at what we passed across the table. We'd like you to take a look at Article 6, Section C, School Day. That's about employees' travel from where they live versus where they have to work at their location. We'd like to strike what we have there that we've taken out and put in what we've inserted. All right, reason we've done this is because this language is consistent with federal policy. It is exactly like what it is we're supposed to do in following IRS rules. It doesn't really, I don't think, affect your workforce, it just that makes our language, and like I say, in line with federal policy. We can't pay somebody mileage from their home to their workplace. Can't do it. Yeah. Would be nice, right, Larry? You'd really like us then. I like it too, but we can't do that. So we've really got to get ourselves, and this was brought to our attention by our accounting folks who felt like our language was kind of antiquated and did not fit with what the new regulations were asking us to do. So it's just, this is a policy procedures issue. This is not anything we're changing or doing anything to employees.
Supposed to argue with you, but
Unless you want to argue with the IRS. I don't want to be in trouble with them, but no. It's redundant, yeah.
yeah,
If you all need to talk about it, or is this something that seems pretty?
I think the.
Yeah, I mean, it's what we've been doing.
You've got may be eligible, that really should be are eligible for reimbursement, not may be eligible. Here's what's going on, folks. We've got itinerant teachers. This is itinerant teachers. This is itinerant teachers that they go to school, I mean, some have the company cars, but some, they're driving their own car, they go to one stop. It's perfectly reasonable for a teacher to leave home and drive to a school. That's what all teachers do.
Right.
But some teachers, after they make their first stop, they gotta go to the next school, the next school, the next school, the next
That's right.
school, and they get to put in for mileage. I'm not gonna have language that they might get mileage. It should be they are eligible, not they may be eligible. So if we change that to are, I think we're okay. somehow in that old language that you're calling antiquated, what happened is a teacher would end up at some school, and no matter what school they were at, for the end of the day, they got the bill for the miles to drive home. And the district has brought this to us before, saying, come on now, every teacher has to drive home. So why are they putting in for miles to drive home? And so you've taken a couple passes at it through the years of trying to say that it's reasonable to expect a teacher to drive home from work. So we don't want to bill them to drive home. So I get that. Bill for what tradition, when you say the rate allowed by federal law, you're talking about the IRS publishes a rate, it fluctuates with gas prices. And so you're still doing that, this doesn't change anything there. If you change your may be to are, we have a TA.
All right, we'll change it to R. Strike maybe and put in R.
There's one. Is that one?
Yes, sorry.
That's okay.
Are you agreeing to go with the TA this one? Hold on.
You want to change it? You want to change it to Mike Beeler? What are we at? Oh, it's right at the top, 723.
Yeah.
That's why it was made. Is that why it was made, because it was private vehicles versus county vehicles?
I mean, we need to talk this.
I'm not gonna try to get mileage
That's what
reimbursed when you're
amazing.
driving the company car.
Well, Judy said.
Concerned about the fact that if a teacher, not the itinerants, but just in general, teacher would come here for an in-service for part of the day.
We have separate language for that somewhere. Would you rather say itinerant employees?
I'll have to look for
If
that.
you want to say itinerant teachers, my contract covers employees, you all identify them as itinerants. If you want to change employees to itinerant teachers. And we have other language for
Don't we have-
services.
We have, Arby, don't we have folks that are in maintenance or facilities that sometimes, like I know cafeteria workers, some of them have to drive to, like for instance, when I was principal at Jackson, there was someone who drove to Jackson, parked their car, got in a company car, and then made the trek around Titusville and,
Well, that's.
We have that as well. We have individual
I know that's-
employees that report to one workplace, and then at some point may have to even use their own POV to go to another workplace. So, and in some
And you're
cases, we
right.
provide a
Yeah,
staff
they're-
car.
it is a different
That's-
contract.
Yeah.
We're-
That's
We
a whole
are
nother
trying to get
contract.
the language to be the same.
So,
Well, for us, we'll say our people, and their contract, you describe that.
all right.
Yeah, we got some in-service language, thank you, Vicki. She's got some on, let's see, where is this, Article 6, is it still C? You're gonna regret everyone knowing this, but yeah, in C, you're on 8, yeah, C8. G. Uh-oh, it just says C.
Okay, it's G. In the event that a teacher is required by the board to travel within district but beyond the administrative area, what you're talking about?
Oh, I get, okay, this, just everyone playing along at home here, this is page, I'm looking at page 23, 8, this is an introductory paragraph, is what you're looking to change. You're on page 23,
Now I'm on page 23.
yeah, on page 20, I'm sorry, yeah, well, your language is on page 23, 8, there's kind of like a paragraph there before it gets into A, B, C, D, and all that
Yes.
stuff. So you're looking at that introductory paragraph,
Yes, sir.
strike it, replace it with this.
Yes,
If
sir.
teachers were to read on in the contract and say, well, does that affect in-services and things? Well, you've got separate in-service language for G, neither side is suggesting changing that right now.
No.
So we don't have to look at this piece of language and say, is this talking about in-services? That's covered by G. Which, by the way, anyone watching the tape, if you're sent to a faraway in-service, go read your contract on page 24G, if you want to discuss reimbursement. Basically, if they send you to some faraway spot out of the area, you're entitled to the difference between where you normally would have gone to work. I'm ready to TA your language.
The reason why the may is in there is because of the personal vehicle piece. If they're running a county vehicle, they wouldn't be eligible.
Do you really think I'm going to agree with you? When they drive the company car and want to be reimbursed?
Stick in.
Right.
Dan, we have 5 minutes, please.
I'll remind you, you have strong past practice on this, that nobody gets reimbursed for driving the company Chevy Cobalt all over town, or whatever that thing is. Or they drive their Vespa, their PFT Vespa. All right.
All right.
I gotta point out some irony, Jim.
Clarification.
Okay, we understand there's some irony here?
Could you make your point?
Yes, you can make the point. We passed the language across, and now we wanted to caucus on our own language.
Okay. As long as we all,
But,
I love irony.
but you changed one word in that.
Which opened the door.
Which and this is what I'm getting ready to explain to you. When we put the word "are" in there,
Uh-huh.
we don't want teachers to think that every time you come to ESF, you're gonna get reimbursed. The word "maybe" says this, and this is where we want to make, that's why Judy wanted to make sure when she talked to Joanne, we were clear on it.
She'll want all the receipts from everybody, had to leave to go to ESF, right?
When a principal says, Dan, I need you to go to an in-service at ESF, we're willing to pay for the mileage. But when it becomes, hey, there's an opportunity for you to take some training at ESF, and it's voluntary, we don't want to pay for that.
Well, that's why you got the
So we
word
don't want
required.
teachers confusing the fact that, oh, I went to ESF, and the word "are" is in there, and it's now saying that you have to pay for it.
Well, see that word required? That's why I got that word required. There's an opportunity to go. I'm not required.
Yeah.
Dan, I'm sending you to ESF, and now I'm required.
All right?
Dan, you made sure.
Can I
Oh,
say
yeah,
something
go ahead,
as well?
Stephanie.
I mean, do principals have to approve your request? Is that not a filter before the receipts get to?
Yeah, we have to put it in line of duty, and we sign the travel form. Yeah. We have to do that. Your travel.
So is that not a filter
Well,
to say?
This is what happens is, usually at the top of that form, you submit that you've got to go to training. I sign off saying that you can go to training. Then after you go to training, you submit your meals, the travel expenses, and then I have the opportunity to say yes or no. I approve or deny. So I could deny it, but I want you to know it's mostly understood that if a teacher puts in for all of that, we want to make sure that we're upfront with whether or not you're going to get it or not get it. You see what I'm saying? I very rarely as a principal did I ever have anyone submit a travel form in which they didn't have some kind of previous discussion with me. Saying, hey, if I go to this, will you pay for travel? Will you pay for expenses? Yes. Or the answer would be no. That way it was commonly understood that way.
Well, we understand that's the meaning of this language. And as I think we've said before, sometimes you write language, you can't write a language for every what-if scenario that comes up, so sometimes when it comes back and forth across the table, we reach these understandings, we put them in minutes, we put them in our notes that we keep, and then someday, if there ever becomes an issue, we can always go back to the notes. I mean, these stay in a secure spot in our office, and sure Rhonda has a safe spot in her office, and that's what that means. I mean, Jim, I'm telling you, I understand that this is not if I'm driving the company car. I understand if you send me to a workshop and I borrow your car. I mean, I understand, we understand what this means. This is language for itinerant teachers, been using this forever appropriately. I understand the district says that you can show up to your work site, just like any other teacher, you're gonna drive around, you're gonna get paid for driving around, and then when you drive home, we don't want to pay to drive home. I understand want to deal with is down the road when the district says, you know what, we've always had this may language there, and now the times are tight, so we can't honor that. Same thing we've always done, I don't want to deal with, now we're not going to honor that anymore.
Why don't we agree to this thing? You said, why don't we strike employees, put itinerant teachers, and we'll leave the word are. How's that? We'll TA it and go to lunch.
Okay.
Dan, I don't.
No, we're not going to lunch.
All right, we're not going
Wait,
to
no, I'm
lunch.
sorry, let's see, we had some
When you
comments.
put itinerant teacher in there, though, that prohibits me from putting in mileage if I'm required to go to an in-service.
No, you've got it on G.
Okay.
You've got in-service language on G.
In the event that a teacher is required by the board to travel within the district but beyond the administrative north, you've got that language.
So if I'm an enterprise and you send me to ESF, I got it. If I'm at Manatee and you send me to ESF, no offense, but we're not gonna put in for the money. If I'm at Manatee, you send me to Heritage, I'm putting in for the, I mean, that's already sending me to a workshop is another piece of language.
Yes.
Oh, what do you got? Never argue our own language. Jim, we're knee deep in irony here.
Hey, give me some more irony.
We got more irony. You are, I'm writing itinerant teachers, I'm probably spelling itinerant wrong, but I'm writing itinerant teachers, I'm changing maybe to R, I've already initialed it.
There was more than one place, Dan, did you get the?
No, I didn't
place?
find more than one place.
Well,
I'm ready to TA lunch.
Rhonda,
Where else do you have it?
there's another. Well, else it says employees.
From the employee's home? Oh, it refers to the employee that's itinerant teacher, really wanna make me change it again?
No.
From Marion, please,
It's in the
we're
same
okay?
paragraph.
We can still say employee?
Same whole paragraph, if you change
Yeah.
the first employees
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
itinerant
Yeah,
teachers,
it's-
covers the whole
We're
paragraph.
told that,
When you say employee, GEC,
we're
whatever.
told grammatically we're covered.
The maybe gets
Thank
stricken
goodness.
in the word.
We're covered by grammar. Itinerant teacher to R,
There you go.
have we TA'd lunch?
Yes.
We have not TA'd lunch. For $1.80, I can get you a plate of whole grains and vegetables.
Yes.
No ice cream. Jim, for $1.80, I can get you whole grain vegetables and no ice cream but yogurt.
Milk,
What about the cookies?
a whole grain chocolate chip cookie.
A whole grain chocolate. Oh, he's so good.
I think for
Oh,
chocolate,
well, sorry. Here, give him that back. No, thank you, Barry.
Chocolate milk.
We got you. Whole grain ice cream. You see vegetables ground up places you never knew they'd be. Get you.
You know, we laugh, but that's exactly where the feds are going.
I got, I could go for a veggie patty served on whole grain.
It really is true, they won't eat it.
Okay, I was hoping we'd be much further along in the lunch. I think you were too.
It's a whole
We'll
grain
get back,
veggie
we've
burger
got
colony.
teacher assignments and duties, which we need to talk about, lesson plans for DA schools. I'm hoping that will be very, very, very easy.
I'm hoping that
You can
we,
TA that right now.
That's law.
Yeah.
It's law.
well, I'm afraid to TA because then you'll change
All right,
it.
all right.
For itinerant teachers or all?
Okay, so are we in agreement that we should come back?
Should we TA the lesson plans before we go to lunch?
I would love to.
That's law, it has to happen.
I would love to. Yes. Let's get that one out of here.
Yes, sir.
It's the law.
Hang on, she's gotta get it out again.
Actually got some grandstanding to do on lesson plans, but I'll save it for later. Yeah. I'll grandstand on empty stomach here.
We already do.
Dan, take a look at the back about the military, Article 17 salary.
That's not military.
We've had some problems on that. I'd like to change 1940 to 1930. No, we're,
Yeah,
let's agree that we'll do that after lunch.
All right, all right.
Let's not push it now. We can't get on too big a roll. Oh, wait, hold on. He's got to sign.
Sign yours.
So we're gonna check off, okay, you got that? Oh, is that, yeah, we put military up there?
No.
Military, something I want to talk about?
No, it's mileage.
No, there was a.
That's part of the salary.
Oh, it's part of salary,
Yeah.
it's military, all right. If we like the salary, here we'll go with that. You got something to say on that?
Article 17 last one.
Mileage, we got mileage. All right.
We're coming back to
Not
that.
all the way, not all the way. Salary after salary. All right, Derek, what you eat for lunch? We're doing salary.
Okay. 115?
Try.
130?
1:30, like I said, 1:30.
130.
That's right.
Okay, well, then we have all of them. No, we said before we left, I really knew we would go back and check when we were bringing with us. Hang on a minute.
Hold on, don't pass those out now. Don't pass them out.
That's why I was late. I didn't.
Yeah, we brought them back with
All
us.
right, we got them.
You know we love these magic envelopes you bring us.
Magic envelopes?
Can't wait to see what you got.
It won't be that difficult.
You want to knock out another issue in less than a minute?
Yes, let's knock out. You know
All
what?
right.
I'm ready to start. We ready to start? Let's knock out something in a minute.
Jason, are we on? All right, we have up there tuition reimbursement, which is to clarify that we're going to do something with it. And we've got 3 people on our team that are ready to serve with you and your team and what you put together. Do we have any dates, times, locations?
I'm gonna set up the dates probably tomorrow. We just got notification from
Okay.
1010 of their participants yesterday morning.
Okay, so Rhonda will set up dates,
I'll
times.
take care of it tomorrow.
Do you have our 3 names?
Yes.
So you'll get with them and we'll make sure they can be present and we'll take a look. Hey, see, not every issue up here is an hour.
All right. We, right before lunch, we looked, the salary for 17, that's just, we have to update that every year.
Wait, I'm
We take a
sorry, where-
very look on page, we can TA that.
On this sheet you gave me today,
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the bottom.
salary,
Take a look at that.
I'm sorry, where am I?
Other side, Dan.
Yeah.
Flip it over.
Where it says salary.
Okay. Well, okay, you're talking about salary, B,
Yes, sir.
and vertical movement. Tell me, just tell the world what that's all about, so, please. That's your language, you get to explain it, defend it, expose it.
Yeah.
Well, there wasn't vertical movement.
Steps.
Huh? Steps. It's for our ROTC folks, there are no steps, we don't have steps, we need to get it out of there, and they just update, the other language is what the military is saying that we have to do.
It's, Dan, excuse me, Jim.
That
It's for
vertical,
anyone who has served in the military. It's not just ROTC.
All right.
Like, you get 2 years of credit.
There you go.
For
You
get 2
military
years of credit.
service.
so we count your military, right, so nothing's changing here. That vertical movement was always a strange piece of
Yes, sir.
language anyway.
Nothing
Okay,
is-
so whenever you're counting whatever your years are to put you
That's
on
right.
whatever schedule you're gonna go on. So that was just a piece of language, didn't,
Housekeeping.
what do you call it, vestigial language, it was there?
Yes, yes.
Like your fingers. All right, if you wanna clean that up, we're not opposed to cleaning that up.
All of that off.
Thank you. Barry, now that was a piece of salary. Okay, we covered salary. No, that was, that doesn't have its own
Barry?
spot on the board.
Not yet. Goes over to Dan.
Okay.
But you don't want it, is.
They'll let you do this.
No.
Oh, they give it back, yeah.
Yeah, I have to.
Jim, I will just say this about that. At some,
That's the one.
all right, oh, okay, this is from June 4th, but that's all right.
Yeah,
It's the
that's
same-
why.
It's the same piece of language,
People
all
like
right.
TAs.
At some point, Jim, I would recommend putting it right in the contract, if, what I'm about to tell you. If you don't want to put it right in the contract, we're going to public records request so we can have it, so we can put it out to the world. I think it'd be easier to put it in the contract. But this grandfathered salary schedule, based on what we're doing today, or in this process, based on what we're doing in bargaining, we kind of have the understanding that this is your pay for how you're placed if you come into the county. And from here, no matter what we end up with, we sort of understand we're going to end up with some kind of differentiated pay here, right? Whether you're effective, highly effective, AC, PSC, whether it's a supplement, whether you're a DF supplement, critical needs, whether you got a couple of those things. So we're all working towards differentiated pay. This is the game that the legislature set in place and governed. All right? So this idea that we're bouncing up steps and years of experience now match steps, that's been eroded for years.
Yes, sir.
All right, so we understand that.
Yes.
The value of this is where you're placed. I believe that whatever chart or methodology the district has somewhere sitting on a table for here's how you get placed. All right? I'm a teacher, I'm coming in from Georgia, I got this many years' experience, where are you going to place me? Somewhere there's got to be a piece of paper where we know. Somebody who answers the phone must have something that they look at to say, you got this many years, you'll end up on this letter, now go look it up on the website, or maybe you give the courtesy of reading it. I think those years should be published in the salary schedule. If you tell me, no, we're not going to, I mean, y'all took this impasse years ago to get it out. The union took the line that was the complete opposite of transparency to make it a mystery. The district took the line that the union's blowing hot air again and we're going to take it out. I didn't fairly paraphrase what you said. So I think the number should be right here. If you're not going to put it right there, then we're going to public records request to see where that is, and we're going to tell people how it works. But anyway, that was more for informational than anything. If I convince you and you'd like to print it in the contract, I would happily TA that, or y'all just go ahead and print it. Because I think that should. Yeah, people want us to tell them where they're going to be placed, and the board values seem to be to keep it a mystery.
Well, I mean, we've got it on the table. Could be TA, something we should call.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, this is what we're willing to do, Dan, just because we just came back from lunch. We would like, and I'm not saying, we want to caucus over that, but let's not do it right now.
Thank you.
We want to talk about reinserting numbers in there, but we do need to talk about it, and maybe we can TA that today if we agree.
We're interested in some other numbers,
Right.
if you are.
That's what I'm getting at. I think to TA, to caucus right now.
Yeah, this, yep.
Yeah, and then move on. Yeah, but I get what you're saying. I think what we're down to right now is that we need to get our counter proposal to your number 2 across the table. Perhaps, when I say your number 2, your salary proposal,
All right.
you gave us a salary proposal, a little over $6 million across the table to us last time. We need to counter with that. Perhaps after discussion, we can see if we can come to some agreement on planning time.
We still got planning.
We got planning time out there, the 6 of 7.
You got planning, that's the big one.
Yep.
AC reappointments, we're close on both those.
That's
We're
what I'm
close.
saying, we need to,
Comp time is not much, and I'm not gonna hold up a contract for it.
all right.
You'll just give it to us each time. But really, we wanna talk about it,
Right.
but if it has to wait till October, it will.
But our 3 big things are 6 of 7, AC reappointments, and salary. I think we need to get on with trying to solve all of that today,
That's our
this
chance.
afternoon.
And what's
We
the
get-
beginning? It's up to
If we
you.
get there, then I think then we're only chipping away at smaller, easier issues. So, let's do that with the understanding that I'm saying publicly right now that when we caucus, we will discuss the salary schedule and putting numbers back in, okay?
I don't even need that, that's not even urgent.
But
I
I
appreciate
want you to
that.
know, we've got it across the table to y'all, remember?
Okay.
We've got language there that says that we need to get that either grandfathered in or TA'd or something, so we've got language across to you all. And I think that all is a package that we just need to kind of sort it all out. Does that sound good?
Okay.
We ready?
We're
Take a
good.
deep breath, 'cause
Yeah, we need
this is where we wrote. Now, audience, realize that when we're into talking about, and to your team, when we're in here talking about negotiations, We may need to caucus 4, 5, 6 times. I mean, you know, that's just the nature of where we are, but we're getting close, and it may be that we need to have what I consider multiple discussions. So don't anyone get offended if we're in and out, in and out, in and out, but that's just the way it all works.
I think it's part of the BPS wellness plan, right?
And
Down and out.
for those folks out there, realize that we are allowed to, Dan and I are allowed to sidebar. We're not breaking any laws. In the sunshine, trust me, I'm gonna say this. If Dan and I could solve a contract and get it solved in 3 minutes, we'd already done this a long
We've
time.
done it, yes, we will.
I promise you, we've been gone through this, so we're out there discussing things for clarification and to be able to come back and be able to really hammer through the tougher issues. We in agreement? We're good, let's roll. Okay, we're gonna put language across. You would task us. You would even said to us, when you come back here, make sure that you have an offer that is, I can't remember your exact words, but an offer that would be acceptable to your teachers. Right?
I gotta with a straight face tell teachers that you did what you could, you did all you could,
All right.
and that, yeah, yes.
So what we've got going across the table, Dan, is look, everything has been serious up to this point, but you've asked us to go back and look at every single bottom line, find the dollars, bring them to you all, and put them towards salary. Okay? So we would like to make sure there's 2 things that we have got to cover today that you all have to understand. I know that I think you do understand it, but your team has to understand it, because you and I have been to a lot of conferences, we've attended a lot of seminars where this formula for pay for performance has been gone over and gone over and gone over, but we have to make sure that the teachers understand it. They have to understand the formula. So we're going to put 2 pieces of paper across the table. 3 now. Could change at any moment. But we've got 3 pieces of paper.
from you, Jim.
And Judy's going to go through it. I'm going to go through it. I want you all to ask questions. You have to ask questions to make sure that you all are clear, because when we get ready, if we can get today to where we can settle a contract, then we have to be clear on how we're going to explain this to our teachers.
Yeah.
Very clear. Pay for performance is tricky. So let's get started with that, but I wanted to make sure everybody is free to ask questions. You all have got to understand it.
Jim, and it's something we've already covered. I appreciate all that.
Yeah.
Like I said, I agree. You and I have already discussed, outside the sunshine, you and I have already discussed that there may be we haven't started it yet, but there may be even a welcome back video.
Yes.
Something where you and I
We have got to make sure people
try to explain
understand
this law. And everything we're doing right now is we're trying to meet a law. We have to meet a law.
We have to do that.
And our state organization is doing what they can with the law, but while different arguments happen away from here about this law, you and I have to comply with this law. All right?
All right.
Okay, I want to just say a couple of things. The reason that I'm going to kind of piecemeal this, if you will, is, as Jim said, to make sure that everybody really understands. Since we started, remember the very first day, and we talked about the concept of how the law would work, and actually Deborah was even on the whiteboard, and then ultimately Dan was on the whiteboard too, trying to get across the concept. We really have 3 major issues when it comes to the compensation. One of them is health insurance, and we've already made a proposal based on the health insurance. One of them is the actual model that we will use to compensate for employees, whether it be a salary adjustment, whether it be a supplement, whatever. And then, of course, the third piece that I know you all are very interested in is how much money gets attached to that model. So, but we need to have some serious conversation about the model first, and that's going to be the first handout, that I want to make sure that everybody's clear on what we're proposing from the model. And there won't be any dollar figures on it, but it's the concept of how this algebraic formula basically is supposed to work when you tie all the pieces of the law together. So if we could go ahead and hand
Now,
out.
if I could just save me the suspense here. I thought we had kind of in spirit agreed on a model.
We have.
So am I going to be surprised, when I see this, am I going to say this?
No, you're not.
Because y'all have a model where there's a multiplier and then now we go from
Right.
there. And I was kind of more looking like a cross.
I think the thing that we thought about though, Dan, is what are you gonna put in the contract? You know, we can't have really the exact dollar amounts to put into the contract. We really need the model.
We need to, if we put something that, Judy's
Okay, I see
exactly
what
right.
you're doing. Okay, I'm done. I withdraw any argument. I see what you're
Okay,
doing.
right. We need, if we're gonna put something in the contract that we're gonna follow, it has to be explained to where everyone understands it, Dan. So that's what we're trying to get at. We're gonna put the numbers on, I swear we're not pulling any.
No.
Yeah.
That's why we're gonna do 3 pieces of paper. But people would jump right to the dollar amount without making sure that they fully understand it. I really, and I'm serious about what Jim said, please ask questions if you don't understand what we're talking about here. But this is the same format of the proposals that we've been putting across the table. It just doesn't have any dollar amounts attached
Okay,
to it
I'm
right
going to
now.
toss out a question, and I know,
Can I?
I'm sorry, Judy, yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's the exact same categories as you've seen on those proposals. I just wanted to make sure that everybody's really clear about what is embedded into the proposal. Category number 1, the supplements. We talked about A and B, those are like the Title I teachers, the DNF schools, those kinds of things. We absolutely would agree with your proposal that those could be locked in at $150 a piece. Beyond that, though, everything that goes into a salary adjustment for anyone deciding to go to pay for performance, or any kind of an adjustment supplement for anyone who stays on the grandfather's salary schedule, that's what number 2 and number 3 reflect respectively. We've got these tied. The categories in number 2 are exactly out of the law. If we're going to do a salary adjustment based on highly effective or effective that are moving over to the pay for performance, and as you said, would become AC teachers. As you know, the value is 1 for the highly effective. The effective can be anywhere between a 0.5 and a 0.75, and as true to course, we've made it a 0.75, just like in all the other proposals. To do Part C, if you're going to do anything into the base pay, it can only be as much as half. If they're staying on the grandfather salary schedule, it can only be as much as half of the effective. So half of the 0.75, that's where the 0.375 comes from. All right? For 3, the persons who opt to stay on the grandfather salary schedule, and we heard you loud and strong, and the board and the superintendent have heard your concerns loud and strong. For the people who opt to stay with their PSC or their CC, that ultimately they would, although the pay will come in a different format, and I'll come back to that in a minute, that they be compensated in an equal manner. So we put the arrows in so that there would be no confusion at all, that anybody who opts to stay on the grandfather's salary schedule, first of all, 2C kicks in, and they would get an adjustment to their base pay. And then either 3A or 3B would kick in. But if you notice from the use of the arrows, doesn't matter which way you go, whether you go to the pay for performance route or you stay on the grandfather's salary schedule, ultimately a highly effective teacher would end up with the same dollars either way, and same thing with an effective teacher. They would end up the same way. It's the way they get paid, that's the issue, but nonetheless, we tried to make sure that it was the same dollar amount no matter which way that they went.
Right. Again, the reason we're giving you this is when we get ready to put our numbers across the table, we needed to make sure that if we're gonna put something in the contract, that this needs to be the formula that goes in the contract. You see what I'm saying? This goes, that way, next year, the year after, whatever, we have a formula. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? Maybe?
We can, I mean, our proposal's not greatly different from this.
Right.
Our proposal, I mean, they're not that far off in spirit or even in presentation. What we're trying to do is not have that gap from 75% to 100%. We're trying not to have as big a gap between effective and highly effective.
So have we done the right thing here? Have we captured what it is that,
We captured your proposal.
all right?
We were
I'm trying
looking
understand
to
yours.
have an across-the-board amount. And what I'm getting at is that hours should not be, I mean, if y'all don't want to do hours, it should be a philosophical reason, not because it's too hard to explain in the contract. And we'll figure out how to put ours in the contract, just like we can figure out how to put this in the contract.
Okay.
Just so everybody knows, just bring everybody up to speed and make sure I'm explaining this right. I appreciate very much, I want you to take credit for this, and this, I mean, it's good news here. We brought to the table the value that we don't want PSC teachers feeling, but not feeling, truthfully losing something, not feeling like, we don't want PSC teachers losing something because they choose to keep their PSC. And you've captured that with this. So that's a good job. If I'm a highly effective PSC, I'm getting the same raise as a highly effective annual contract. And I don't have that pressure that I need to give it up. So you've captured that. I know there's some retirement issues and some technicalities about how it will be. I don't want to slough that off, but you've captured the essence of it. So
No,
let me
and
give you credit for that. At the same time, what was a little bit different in our offer is that as you put in a number here, as you put in a unit, all this math is going to slide down the line here. And no matter what number you put in, let's just say you put in $1. You put in more than $1, but let's just say you put in $1. Now I've got highly effective as $1, effective is 75 cents.
Yeah.
Well, that's a third more, you know, a third of 75 cents is that. So we were trying to keep that gap, which is why, well, it's a third more, reported less than 7. But anyway, so we were trying to keep that gap to a minimum because there's that frustration over the evaluation system. Again, that's not a personal attack
Do
on
you
anybody.
have a range that you and your team have discussed in that area?
Well, what we had given across the table in writing, it was a spreadsheet, we passed it, was a 200, 100, and 50 for 3 numbers. That way, that gap at worst would be $100. And then an across-the-board element would be a supplement that was for everybody that's returning from last year. Is that the spreadsheet you're looking at?
Yep, we've got it.
So it's a small change in philosophy. It's close. I mean, we're close there on the philosophy.
Where's the $100, where is that $100? Because we used your numbers, 150, I think. And that's what he's thinking. You know what your,
Mom from last week.
that's your proposed number two.
Okay, and that would be a value of 1 and 0.75.
Right.
The
And
200
then,
and the
right,
1.
and then actually, right, and actually I realized what we did is we countered, and we gave this all to you in spreadsheet, if y'all captured it, as we can, because we were at 8.8 million, and the challenge was to come closer to you. Just bring everyone up to speed, we went from 8.8 to 6.2.
That's right.
Y'all went
That's
from
the one I have
3.7 to
right
3.8. So we don't consider that you met us in the middle. But it was movement, and the philosophy is close. But what we did is we created, those supplements, we split into 3 categories based on years of experience. Are you, do you have it there on the spreadsheet?
Yeah,
What's the
this
bottom
is-
line on,
this is-
that's
this
our
is yours.
proposal you captured?
Yeah, this is your number.
What was our
From
bottom
last
line
week.
on that?
You had 6.2.
Okay, so you got this, so you have the proposal where we got the 6.2, you can see what we did. And you can see, based on evaluation, you see how there's only a $100 gap between effective and highly effective?
No, there's a $50 gap.
Yeah.
Oh,
$50
okay.
Yeah.
gap. That's why I kept getting thrown when you said 100. But highly effective, you had $200, effective $150.
Oh, excuse, I'm
COLA,
sorry.
0.
I'm sorry, you're right, I'm sorry.
And
It's
that is
200,
the 1 and the
150.
0.75.
Yeah.
Right, you are correct. Okay, so there's that, right, so it's a $50, so we were trying to keep that gap minimal. It meets the law, right, 75% is it? And we were trying to put the rest into the new supplement that we create. And Judy, by not calling it a pay-for-performance supplement, by just calling it a supplement, like Broward County, for example, calls it an incentive, we thought that would pass muster with FRS if it's paid in every check. And it's just, link it to something, call it something.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was, the last time I was here, I asked that you
If you-
basically put your FEA folks onto that.
If you
because
call up
that
FRS and
really,
say-
I thought was a wrong decision, as I said that
Right.
day from FRS, and.
We have to get pay for performance supplement.
Yeah.
We have to get pay for performance out of the phrase for supplement. Because they sort of know what districts are doing. There's one district, they were actually talking about a needs improvement supplement, which is something we have to cover. They went, what if it needs improvement? Well, we get a needs improvement supplement for that. And, well, that's not going to fly with that. That's not going to fly with the letter of the law, with the spirit of the law. So we've got to get paid for performance out before we
Well, I
can
did
pass
talk
that.
with them, and I talked to them about the spirit of what the legislature had been trying to do, that they were gonna hear this from every district in the state. It
The
wasn't
spirit
just
of what the
Brevard out
legislature
there
wants to do
doing.
is make us all charter schools and run us out of business. So we got to put that in the context.
Well, I've said for many years, interestingly enough, and Karen knows, let's just make every one of our schools be a charter school.
Well, respectfully, I accept the sarcasm with which that was meant, but yeah,
Actually, there's necessarily a bad deal about doing that, but it will take, that's a whole other subject.
You are
But you'd
correct.
at least be excused from a number of different laws.
bring that up in October. All right.
But I am glad you
We'll table
talked
that
about
until-
the retirement, because the next handout, that, before I give this out to you though, I want to say, to echo what Jim said, we listened, we went back and we've looked, and I know that you've mentioned a litany of things at the table. We can't do anything about the capital dollars at this point. I know you told me step out of your comfort zone, but Dan, I don't mean this derogatorily, it's easy for you to say, we've got to live it. And I can't do that, I've got to know how the results of the election are. So we're gonna have to continue to do what we're doing for capital until we know, something different. And hopefully, we're successful in that, we will be successful, and we can address that issue down the road, but I just don't see us doing it right now. We have looked, continuing to close the books. We don't know the bottom line number yet. We do know there's some, and that's some of the discussion that we've had at the table, like for health insurance, for example, to be able to give that a jump start, and we can use some non-recurring monies for that. One of the things that we've examined, for example, is Arby and his folks continue to look at our bus routes. And the fact that we've had some extra bus driver positions there that now, with some changes that he and his staff have made, we don't feel like we're gonna need in the future. That'll be a recurring cost, and that's gonna give us some money that we can put back into the budget for next year, that we won't have to use the same way we were using. We can redirect it, in other words, which is right at what you were asking about. Now, we can't redirect the whole amount. We have to keep back a couple $100,000 to give to him for dealing with maintenance, because he's overrunning with the older buses. He's overrunning his maintenance budget constantly for the repair parts and all. But nonetheless,
To fix the buses, we're in favor of fixing buses, yeah.
it was about $1 million, and so what we're gonna do is give him a little slice of it, and that leaves roughly almost $800,000 that we felt like we could put into the picture. But before we get to absolute specifics, I have a page number 2 that I kind of wanted to talk you through. On this particular handout, as they're coming around to everyone, you're going to notice the whole top part of the sheet is identical to the one that you just had. All I've done is to add a package total to the bottom for what we're proposing. Remember I said, I think it's real important, and I think we all will agree, it's this model that we ultimately will decide on, and then we've got to decide on the dollar value that goes with that. So we have been able to add some additional dollars to the proposal that we had on the table with you the last time, and this is a summary box at the bottom. We're suggesting a total for salary adjustments and supplements of basically $4 million. There is variable fringe that goes with that, and at this point, to Dan's comment, I am assuming that the supplements will make the test with FRS, and that we will be able to count them for retirement. But nonetheless, that's about 15.7%, rounded off, for your variable fringe. That's your Social Security and your state retirement and your workers' comp and your life insurance. So for the salary side of it, being an adjustment or in a supplement, we're proposing the $4,671,000 number. And then the two different pieces of health insurance that we have spoken to you about, putting in that $70 a month from the board's portion. There will be two sides to that. Basically, one portion for the 6 months of the new calendar year. Of course, whenever everybody will have gone through open enrollment and that kind of thing. But also remember, we had offered up that we would be putting in for the 6 months, actually retro back to July 1 that we just passed. And so from July 1 of 14 to December 31 of 14, we will be moving forward with providing that appropriation. Total is $8.9 million. You can do the math in your head just like I can. About 4.7 of that is put into the salary side of things, adjustment or supplement, and 4.2 of it is going into health insurance. So the health insurance is making up a pretty big chunk of the total amount, but it is $8.9 million. Now, I know everybody's probably sitting there thinking, okay, what does this look like if you ran it through a model? So like we have done before, when we passed proposals across the table, we have, for illustration purposes, we have given you an example. You're used to seeing this format because this is what's been across the table the last few times. But to kind of give you an idea of taking that dollar amount, that 4.7 million, and running it through the formula, what would that look like for someone based on those different categories? Again, I will remind you, there's nothing on here that's basically changed from the format of the sheet the way you saw it the last time. We did add some additional wording. And we did that probably to help all of us, because we thought if somebody picks this up and they look at it, there were probably a couple of line items that didn't make a whole lot of sense. So if you go to the top and you come down to the second line where it says minus 3.1 million, we added that it was $70 per employee per month. And it is for, like we clarified at the table a couple of times ago, it is for the 6 months starting January 1. And is for all employees at this point. Also, down at the bottom in the chart, we added some additional clarification on the time frame on the two lines that had to do with health insurance. Again, to make absolutely sure that if anybody was looking at this, they wouldn't think that it was a duplicate line, that there was consideration for that. This is, again, hypothetical, because remember, the model carries with it a number of variables. You guys have alluded.
I'm sorry.
No, this is ours. No, no.
Oh, that's the board stuff.
Yes.
That's the board stuff.
Okay, so I lost my train of thought now. When you're running it through the model, as you all know, and you've been struggling with the same thing, part of it is to try to figure out, number one, how many teachers are going to fall into each separate category. And that's going to be a determination, a big determination of what the final output is. This is strictly for illustration purposes. We haven't changed the number of hypothetical teachers under the teacher number. These were numbers that HR provided to us as kind of something to at least look at so that you could kind of get some kind of an idea. I get what Dan said earlier about maybe the spread between highly effective and effective. But we didn't change anything related to that. We wanted you just to be able to see by the increased dollar amount. You remember on the one you were provided last week, the unit value worked out to be $650. In this one, in taking that 4.6 million, take off the variable fringe, that basically gives you 4 million to insert into this model. And what that does is that provides a unit value of $800. So again, to reiterate a couple of things, whether a teacher may opt to go to pay for performance or whether they opt to stay on the grandfather salary schedule. If they're highly effective, they're going to get the same dollar amount, albeit be paid a little differently, same dollar amount in this example of $800. They get it two different pieces. If it's an effective teacher, same thing. Either way they might choose to go, they would get the same dollar amount. So to address that issue that we wouldn't want them to be penalized, so to speak, by either choice that they might make, they would net out, the $600. Little charts at the bottom, we just added a little bit of shading to make it a little easier to read, but it's basically the same format as you saw the last time. And it is utilizing that same 8.9 million that you saw over on the previous page. Here's the issue, when you use any kind of a model, and I'm preaching to the choir here, I'm sure, because I know that BFT's looked at this just like we have. If you're working it through a formula base, where you have to address meeting the letter of the law as it currently stands, and try to address all the things that we've talked about here at the table, you really can't say what the value of the unit is until you know the number of highly effective and effective teachers. Even if you change the relationship, to get at what Dan was talking about, we can certainly look perhaps at some of that. We just have to expand the formula somewhat. But we can't go out there right now in this particular model. We can't really say what the ultimate dollar amount would be. We need to know how many highly effective teachers there are and how many effective teachers. In this proposal, it wouldn't matter what their choice was. I got to emphasize that again. It wouldn't matter if they chose to stay on the grandfather salary schedule or whether they chose to go to pay for performance and give up their PSC or CC. Either way, they would earn the same amount of dollars, albeit paid perhaps a little differently, but still, they would earn the same amount of dollars. We just don't know exactly what that dollar amount would be. So that's why we put the watermark in there, because we didn't want anybody to pick it up and say, oh, I know I'm going to get $800. We don't know yet. It might be more than that. We just don't know. Maybe our mix of highly effective and effective is not correct. We just don't know at this particular point in time.
Do y'all know why we don't understand? Because we haven't gotten BAM scores. So there's somebody right now, we know there's somebody going to be sitting there right now with an effective evaluation as of right now. We get their BAM scores back, and guess what? They can be highly effective. So that changes the dollar amount. So why we put the watermark in there is we don't want someone walking away from the table today going, oh, I just made, X amount of dollars, yippee, yay, and then they come find out in November when we really run the numbers, oh, I didn't make this much money. And they're disappointed, think we cheated, or that we lied, or that we did something, at the table that wasn't. We cannot have an employee. That's why I said, Dan, it's going to take us educating people to understand we can't give you an exact dollar amount. We might be able to come within, a few dollars here or there, but we can't just say, hey, this is the way it's going to be, and everyone think that, oh, we're going to walk away from the table today, and I know exactly what's going to be my raise.
I mean, obviously, you don't really captured.
If I could just say one more thing. Yes, the total is 8.9 million, but since we already had talked about the health insurance, if you back that off, you really on this sheet just need to look at that second shaded line, or else look at the first and second shaded line, because the amount going into the salary adjustments and or supplements, some people would get both. They stay on the grandfather salary schedule. It's $4 million without the fringe. It's 4.7 million almost with the fringe.
Dan, this is a total package. It's way more than what we came to the table last week I've got to emphasize, I know that sometimes you don't like to hear this, but we have to emphasize this. Insurance is a big deal. Insurance is expensive. You sat on that committee. You know exactly what it is that our trust fund is faced with in insurance. Susan's gone over it. You sat there. Some of your teachers have sat on that committee. I've got to stress to you all that when we talk about dollars that we're paying and giving to our teachers, all of our employees, insurance is a huge part of that factor. We've come to you with almost a total package of $9 million. We've given everything, we've given language. You all have got to take this seriously. I can't emphasize enough that our total compensation includes that insurance. It includes what the board is going to do from now until January. You're not going to have to pay a dime, we're going to pay for it. We've gone from you all beginning, and you were part of that committee where every employee was going to pay $70, we've come down to $50 as deductible. You've asked us to go back and look at what it is that we need to do in the bottom line, and shake out all of the things that, those dollars that fell to the bottom line for this contract. We did that for this budget.
All right. I'm going to tell you what we're going to talk about. Because you might want to have some talk about it too with your team. Earlier in the day, you told me you were angry, frustrated. Well, I'm not going to fuss at you about it, but this isn't where this is a movement in the right direction. It's not acceptable that dollars coming out of operating to go to capital. It's not acceptable that, well, that can't happen, or that we're told that that's not allowable to happen. I really don't care to go down that whole road again, but I know it can happen. When that decision was made, that $4 million would be transferred, from the time that decision was made until now, some things have changed, including PICO and property values. Y'all know the discussion of money. My thoughts on money. If we have to repeat it, we will.
Yeah.
But I'll start with the good, which is that you made some movement. You began making movement. A couple things we have to establish before we go on. First up, I'm going to ask everyone on my team. I don't direct your team, but I'm going to ask you and your team to take your proposal. I thought we said it last time, this clearly maybe I didn't. But take up at the top where it says amount available for negotiations, and then parenthetically it says includes class size penalty reserve. Cross that out, please. We had a long discussion about how somehow I became a part of the district having to move people to 6 or 7. I'm not going to become a part of, your union said it was okay to do what we're doing with class size. Y'all do it, if that's what y'all gonna do, y'all do it. Don't ask me to be the spokesperson for it or to sign off on it. So I really don't want to see that. That's minor compared to the rest. I'm going to give you a couple other comments here.
You
First,
do understand that that has to do though with the total amount available,
I'm not
whether it's for BFT or
I'm not telling
other
you where to get the
employees
money
or-
from. Okay?
Yeah, the reason for that clarification is the superintendent board asked us to put that on there because if you recall, what was presented publicly at the first board meeting was 8.1. And they wanted to be able to explain how it got to almost 8.6.
Well then, if someone were to ask you how you put together 8.6, then you can explain how you put together 8.6.
Okay.
But on the documents that come to me across the table, I don't want to be that the district signed off on whatever's going to happen with choice schools. If that's the right thing to do, if that's what y'all are going to do, that's what y'all are going to do. I'm not going to negotiate whether or not you have a choice school or not. Or all of them choice schools. All right, some other concerns. I'll just tell you what we're going to talk about, and I'll let you all talk about it. I'll let y'all talk about whatever you want to talk about on your own. In our model that we've given, and I'm glad you found it, and we have this here, we're going to take your numbers, try to put them in there, and we'll see if we can counter today. Let's see, we're apart, anyone playing along at home, we're apart by 1.6 million. Let's see if I did them right. If we're at 6.2 and y'all are at 4.6, you probably prefer I round that to 4.7, but we're $1.5 million at least apart. But with that said, we're gonna see what your plan looks like in our model, because the concern that we do have moving forward, well, let me back that up. At some point, we're gonna agree this is our scale for placing teachers. And we agree in spirit, right? Somebody shows up in this county, and this coming year, 14-15, is about to be my first year in Brevard County. This is my pay. Okay? In our model that we gave you when we talked about a supplement, we weren't including those guys in raises. And that has to do with the value that we have, where we've got teachers sitting on step A. We raise their salary, someone else comes in on step A, they get the raise too. I've got people 8 years experience on step A saying, you just got hired the same as me. So when we did our supplement schedule, and when we did our proposal, we were not counting, we were counting on the new hires going right here, and our Brevard County veterans, even if 1 year is what it takes to be a veteran, moving up. So I noticed in your proposal here, you've got about 1,340 ACs and 3,500 PSCs, so you got about 4,800, 4,900. So you've counted on everybody moving up, including new hires, which could be difficult because of new hires, you don't know if they're highly effective, needs to prove what they are. So even if this is the number we go with, which I have to talk to my team, my first gut instinct is this is not a number that's going to get us out of here by 2:30. But even if we go with this, there's more money to be found by backing out the new hires, putting them on the grandfathered schedule and not figuring in a raise for them. Okay? We have a question about the needs improvement. Folks, if I'm AC needs improvement, I have quite a challenge to get back here or not. The statute doesn't allow for AC needs improvement to get a salary adjustment. PSC, however, they can get raises, whatever. In the old days, they could go up steps. So we'll have to figure that. Now in our proposal where we had across the board, for we ended up doing 1 to 3 years, 4 to 8 years loyalty, 9+ years. So we would have included our needs improvement PSCs in there. I don't know if your model includes that, but that's something we'll talk about. Jim, you talked about and the law will allow for what I'm saying. At least we have an interpretation from FBA Legal that the law will allow what I'm saying. You talked about even if we settle this now, let's be positive, when we settle this now, okay? We have to wait till VAM comes in November to figure out what you got.
Yep.
We're basing some other decisions in this contract based on like rehiring and some AC stuff. I mean, we're looking at basing it on your part one summative, is that what you call it? The part one summative from last year. I think we could create a safe harbor situation where if your part one summative brings you to highly effective, you could get the highly effective. And if your VAM score pulls you down, we don't have to go back and pull them down. I think the law.
Say that again.
What I'd like to see is that a teacher right now with highly effective,
On the first
on the part one summative,
evaluation.
that got home for the summer with 47 out of 47.
Yep.
Or whatever your cutoff is, 42, or whatever that cutoff was. Right now, they're distinguished, they're highly effective, that's where they are. And if we settle that this is what highly effectives will get, whatever they get,
Okay.
Y amount of dollars is what they'll get, we could plug them in there. And if the VAM score pulls them down, so their final is effective, I think we could go with what we find for professional practices and give them a safe harbor. If you got it one or the other, you're okay. That's what I'd like to see rather than, I mean, best case scenario, we settle something. Let's say y'all brought me $10 million more and we settled and we're happy. I still don't want to go back and tell teachers, okay, in November, You'll find it, let's all vote now in November, you can look at your final thing, and then we gotta go refight the whole Van Wars and what is this and why are we doing it and everything else. So, y'all talk among yourselves, please, because we're gonna talk among ourselves. And then one other part I wanna talk about, and there are models for this, and the DOE doesn't have a problem shut down any contracts over this, is that this supplement for PSE, I think Judy kind of illustrated kind of well, it's a different, the supplement is a different thing than the salary adjustment. Ultimately, it goes into your paycheck, it's the same dollars go into your checking account, right? It's the same direct deposit, the bank doesn't ask where do you get this money from, it's just the same thing. But we would want to understand that this is a growing supplement, meaning, if I ended up this year with this $500 PSE supplement, my pay is now, my salary is my salary plus 500. And next year, if we negotiate this table that everybody in my boat gets 300, well, I already got 500 coming to me. I got 500 plus 300. We'll run the numbers, we'll do the math, not gonna make anyone go broke. We'll account for it, however we, Judy, the math's only gonna get worse through the years here as we try to keep track of where everybody is. And that's the legislature set this up for us. All right, even me giving you a proposal is gonna be a nightmare to figure out the numbers. But, we want some kind of permanency. I don't even need language for it, I just need an understanding that we start next year, people start where they were. Kind of like I'm a coach, I'm still the coach, I'm still gonna get that supplement for coach. Now, actually it's a little bit different because coaches can be pulled at will, but you know, they're actual employees in their supplements, but for teaching, we want some kind of permanency. All right, we all did your work. I appreciate the movement, I recognize the movement, I know it's not hard to go dig up stuff, I still think there's room in 2 areas I've identified. I still think capital, the answer can't just be no, we come to negotiate. And I want teachers to know that you've stepped outside the box, Jim, no matter what we settle, whenever I get you to that point that you've done something, you already have, I know, but when we get you really down the road and you're out of your comfort zone, or Judy and finance folks are going, man, can we do that? And when we get there, I'm back to the table December 1 if this doesn't work out. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get my employees, not my employees, I'm trying to get teachers ready to rally. You heard us yesterday at the board meeting. We're behind the half pen. You know what every angry teacher tells me when they call it? Angry over anything. They're angry about their evaluation, they're angry about their health plan, they're angry about their room assignment for next year. They say, why should I vote yes for the half penny? That's what they tell me. I don't blame them. I don't fault people for their emotions. Okay, we're emotional creatures. All right, that's enough of that. Let's take a little break. Jim, would you mind if we stay here just because I have the computer set up? Well, we could do some stuff. We could put some stuff. Judy, if you have flash drive, we could back and forth on the projector as we're doing this. If you have yours electronically, or you could. Jim, is that all right? I mean, we could work better if we put stuff up on. We're ready if you're ready. Jim, didn't we say we were going to eat the frog first and we were supposed to get this done by lunch on the first day? Wasn't that the plan?
Yeah. Yes.
We'd go to lunch and have this done. Well, we're eating a frog right now. It's not easy. We did not have easy conversation in here.
All right.
I'm going to ask some of my team to talk for us on our behalf. Seth, would you start out, please?
You all have really captured part of our, what we value, and we've expressed that over and over again. The ideal to hold harmless the, professional contract people, to give them the same amount. But the second part, you have continued to not listen, to not hear what we're saying.
All right.
And the second part of that is that we, as teachers, also feel that it's very important to provide a differential for years of service. that is also a very important value to those of us that sit at this table. And you know the reasons for that. The fact that we've gone for so many years without having any raises. And individuals who came in at 9 years basically have not, their salary has not increased. So you've got new people coming in that maybe worked in Orange County or someplace else. They're now coming in at that 9-year, salary scale when our teachers are still where they were 9 years ago. And so we feel that that's a value that we hold very highly, that there be a loyalty, a longevity, whatever you want to call it, whatever West Palm calls it, what do they call it?
Incentive, yeah.
And whatever it's called, an incentive.
Mhm.
And that there be a differential there for years of service. So 9+ gets this amount. And so we want to go back to our model. So you ask us about the model. We are saying that we don't like your model because it does not take that into account. We want a small amount in the pay for performance. We want the bulk, the larger amount in the longevity, loyalty, supplement, and we want a differential there.
All right.
I want to show what that offer was. Thank you, Stephanie. I want to show what that offer was. Okay, you're going to get a counter, but I want to show what that offer was. Just so we all remember what was going on there. The numbers in the yellow, I just highlighted those, so as things change through these different spreadsheets, you know what to keep an eye on. You see your loyalty. I had to plug in numbers for estimated number of employees. I bet at this stage of the game, y'all could probably come up with better estimates than that. Of course, at that 31, I was hoping that's a high estimate. If that's a high estimate, then we save a little bit of money if it goes in other places. You notice I'm adding up to 4,500. You're projecting 4,800, 4,900 teachers, about 300 or 400 new folks are coming in. So they're going to be on the grandfathered scale and then eagerly awaiting to see what we do for next year. And you'll see what Stephanie was talking about, highly effective and effective. Judy, you're right, that it ends up being 2 different locations on here, but I just, for simplicity, since it's all the same, that's why I just put it in one spot. So that's where we were last time.
Can I touch on one thing, because you mentioned it before, and I meant to go back to it.
This was an old proposal, just so you know. I mean, this is the,
I
okay.
understand. The issue that you just raised again about new teachers,
Mhm.
if new teachers are positioned in that model to where they ultimately don't earn any kind of a raise or a supplement, that only serves to increase the unit value for everybody else.
Right.
And that's why I said, we didn't know what the numbers were going to end up materializing to be.
Correct.
But, okay, all right.
Correct.
It's
As we
still the
negotiate
same dollars
raises, right.
would get used, it just would.
Right, we're
it
not
would serve
negotiating
to
the
raise.
first 200-some million that it costs to pay everyone's salary. We're talking about the above and beyond dollars, we're talking about raises. And we're suggesting that people come in and they get placed at a fair spot on the scale.
So
I don't know how you begin to say you're a brand-new teacher, you're highly effective based on your VAM scores, therefore you
Right,
get,
right.
we couldn't do that.
Right.
Right.
So that right there is
We agree.
proposal number 2.
That's what you have printed out.
All right.
From last time. I just want to remind people of the structure, because Stephanie, as we were discussing, she said it very well about why we really want this structure,
All right.
which we appreciate that you agreed in principle on the not differentiating huge between annual and PSE.
All right.
All right, I want Michelle to talk about the bulk of the discussion we had was, well, Michelle, you take it, I don't.
This
You have it
is-
down.
This is gonna be more of a personal side to how the last few years have affected my family. And my husband and I both work for the school system. So, well, let me back up a little bit more. We have 3 children, and we also support my mother-in-law. So we have a family of 6, 5 of which of us are on this insurance plan, okay? And I have my own separate insurance plan because I'm an employee here, and he has his with the 3 children under his. So,
Is your mother-in-law on any of them?
no. But, she counts money as far as my monthly bills and stuff go. And 6 or 7 years ago, the county had to take away the joint family plan thing. Let me tell you what, that was a major, major, major pay cut in my family, and along with the other spouses that work in this county. Not to mention, and I know health insurance has changed, but over the years, it's just been more and more and more. And we haven't had very many raises over the last few years. And with the insurance consistently going up, gas prices going up, which cause everything to go up, groceries, everything, we have not kept up with the cost of living. We've been far below the cost of living in this profession. And just to give you a couple of examples of what I've been running into just recently, is that I had to go get an ultrasound the other day. I walked in, they take me back to administration, admin, and they tell me it's gonna be $148. I walked out. I don't have $148 to pay on an ultrasound, because now I have to pay 20%, which came about last year or the year before, I don't even remember. It used to be free, and then it was a $50 copay, and now it's 20%. Okay, so it's constantly changing. And my son, who's 6 years old, has to take Nasonex, major severe allergies, and we've tried every generic under the sun. So I have a $45 copay once a month for him to take Nasonex. Come January, I'm gonna have a $300 deductible because it's a non-preferred prescription. Okay? So we put money up there, but I'm telling you, I'm not getting a raise. It's nowhere near what I should have been with my 17 years of experience. And we haven't even kept up with the cost of living. And it has affected every single teacher. But it has majorly impacted my family because it has impacted not only myself, but my husband.
Michelle she's speaking from personal stories. But if you got the time, I could line up 4,000 teachers that could tell you the same story. Not the same medications, not the same number of kids. But this is very real. And when we hear about, we borrowed from capital in the past, or we paid things out of capital, therefore we owe capital. You've got 4,800 teachers that feel owed as well. It's not greed. We're really trying to stay in the profession. You had about 200 teachers during the school year last year make the decision that they couldn't stay in the profession. I mean, I had teachers call me up, choked up, because they were leaving teaching. And they were leaving because it was a financial decision that they had to make. It was about feeding their kids, the stress of their marriage, and that's why they're leaving the profession. Okay? It wasn't that they were in 3 years in a row and they couldn't do the job. It was they're leaving because of that. Okay? So when I tell you there's a $4 million transfer and you can do something for your employees with that, get your employees ready to rally for the half penny by doing right by them. We talk about trust. All right? David, I hope I didn't steal all you were going to say. I just saw your name and I figured, well, I'll just cover that. But all right, David, please.
I want you to know that, number one, I appreciate that there was movement and everything in the salary schedule. But I want to talk a little bit about reality for teachers that speak with me quite a bit. And again, Michelle just talked about how you're not keeping up with things. There's a whole lot of interest. We got a lot of people watching us and so forth and everything. I don't think that the proposed salary that's coming across is going to motivate teachers to vote for the half penny sales tax. They're emotional, and right now they will vote with their emotions. And you're talking 5,000 voters, plus their spouses, maybe their adult children, their neighbors, possibly parents, things like that. I think we I guess I'm asking if you can step out of your comfort zone, because these people need to see something. And let's face it, for the good of all of us, we need that half-penny sales tax. A lot of people are not going to vote for it unless they see something substantial. They're seeing a zero net gain between health insurance increases and what raise that they see coming across.
Jim, you made a comment, thank you, David. Jim, you'd made a comment, and I guess we make lots of comments, don't want to hold anyone, don't want to, you know, remember you for one comment, but you said something about, come on, Dan, think about what the voters are going to think if they look and they see teachers getting raises, or big raises or something. And I'm going to tell you, that should be irrelevant to what you can do and what you're going to do. If you can find the money, if you have the money, if we can get raises, there shouldn't be any thought from the district, well, but maybe we're not going to do all we can. And I'm not accusing you of that, what you said, what the board member said. But I still think you can do better, I still think you can do more. I'm not worried about voters out there getting, you'll notice that the press is absent from this. I'm not trying to get them out here to lean on us. I'm sure at some point it makes the paper, but I'm not trying to get them to pressure play as we've thought in the past would be a good idea. So we're not looking for this to get out huge.
Okay.
But our offers is we're talking about 3 point something or 4 point something million versus 6 point something million. That's not going to make or break the public on their decision on the half penny. It could make or break teachers on their decision on the half penny, whether or not to stay in teaching.
Okay.
And every teacher that leaves and takes their experience with them, that's bad for kids. We're going to maintain that forever. We're here for the kids. That's bad for kids. When teachers make those decisions, they're leaving. All right? We had a difficult decision among this team. What I'm going to show you now was not at all unanimous.
Okay.
To show this to you. There was passionate discussion. And if you ever get the vibe that there's people outside this team that don't agree with me all the time, I got people on my team that don't agree all the time. Okay? Imagine that. Of course, you don't have to worry about that with your team. You always unanimously. But here's the, I'll take silence as your answer. But here's we want to keep talking. All right? Because we don't see an alternative. We don't see it being viable to us to go back to teachers and say, we worked all summer, good conversation, look at that, got stuff done, and then we broke off talks over money. That's not productive at all.
I agree.
Although at the same time, there's also talk that we gave our last best, final, we're done, let's go home, and if they don't like it.
Right.
So there's that discussion as well. There's a lot of, now we're at the emotional part. We're at the calculator part, we're at the emotional part. I used to tell my students there's no emotion in math, but yet we found it. All right? I want to show you your offer. We took your dollars, we came close, we're within $10,000. I want to show you your offer in our structure.
Okay.
This is not a counter proposal. Okay?
It's not a count. Okay.
This is not a counter.
All right, all right.
But we said, we took Judy's bottom line here of 4.6 million, and I know you'd like me to remember the bottom line is 8.9 million. We appreciate the health insurance, but for salary discussion, we took the bottom line of 4.6 million.
Okay.
And we said, what would that look like with our values?
All right.
Okay? This is not our counter proposal. All right, you see these numbers right here. All right, you'll see this tab is called Judy. And we tried to recreate that 467 number. That red number is what Judy gave us. We were still over by what, 17,000 something? 16,000 something? All right. This is what, I'm just with our values, Judy's numbers. And again, Judy, I apologize to you. We're talking an issue here. We're talking a district. We're not talking, I apologize every time I say Judy's numbers is not meant. I shouldn't be doing that.
We understand it's a BPS.
We know we mean Judy, but I shouldn't be doing that.
Right.
So that's my own,
BPS.
that's on me, okay? We cut everywhere we could. All right? We took out the leadership number. That was a value the district brought to us. Sometimes we had to say we couldn't afford that this year. It was a small amount, but we said we couldn't do that. We cut the salary adjustments number down. Remember, it's our value that we not make that big deal about that. Because not only do we not want teachers fighting over, or deciding over AC versus PSC, but we don't want teachers crushing their lives over, I missed it by a point because of VAM, somebody explained me the VAM formula. All right, so we don't want to deal with that. We dealt with a lot of that last year. Deborah had a big smile when we talked about what it's like you fight over 1 or 2 points on VAM, because we did that last year on behalf of a lot of teachers. So we took down that value on highly effective versus effective, and we said, what's left to cut? So we went into, remember the yellow boxes, the highlighted boxes, we went into there. We got health insurance going up $50 a month. Granted, that's not till January, but that's $50 a month. Now granted, it's pre-tax, so it's only $42 a month. But I can't go to teachers and say, your raise for the year is $350, and you might get another $150. And if you work in a Title I school, we get you another $150 that, if you got an F and you got that, or something like that. Now, there's a lot of folks, but just so everyone knows, there's a lot of folks swept up in that critical need category. Jim, would you say about half the teachers, 2/3 of teachers are swept up in critical need? I don't know if Judy had a number for that. I'm not seeing it on here. At one time we had the number. It's a lot. It's more than half, I believe. But still, you heard Michelle's story on behalf of 4,500 other teachers here? You heard from a lot of people. We've heard enough from Dan. All right. I ran in here and erased a chart. Maybe I shouldn't have erased it, but we had the basic history of where we were. Y'all started 3.7. We were at 8.8. Okay? Then you took a micro step, 3.7 to 3.8. We feel like we took a big step. We're not in the mood to take another big step. Take a little step. Okay? Talked about the 4 million capital. You said no. I'll accept that, but you said no. I mean, you did say no, that's a fact, but y'all got it. We've talked about a buffer between budgeted and spent for salary. Now, when we began negotiating, the day before we came to the table, I finally got my number. I went in the budget book and I found a $3 million gap between budgeted and spent. I worked with someone in the district, I won't mention the name, but I worked with someone in the district on that. We looked at some more revised numbers. Some more numbers have become available since I asked for my number, and it was down about $2.5 million. Now, this is after I had had a discussion with someone else at the district, very high-ranking person, told me that, well, yeah, dollars are taken in real time as we run payroll. That's why as we get closer to the end of the year, we find there's fewer dollars left over because dollars are amended out of the budget. But anyway, at the last meeting, you told, or I'm not sure if it was Karen or you told me that the gap now was 0.64%. So not 1%, but 0.64 of 1%. That's $1.5 million out of that $220-some million thing. We're about $1.5 million apart.
And remember, I reminded you, we have U Park, and we have Endeavor.
Okay.
We have to pay an extra hour to, remember, and I told you that, that's a figure that's close to $800 to $1 million that we have to now
Okay.
budget for that. Remember that? All right.
Yeah.
And last week when you had the conversation, the number was probably about $1.4 million. As we sit here today, it's really like $1.8 million. It's grown about $500,000 because Title I picked up some additional costs for Endeavor for this past year that we didn't have any idea they were going to be able to afford to do until
Okay.
just last week. So, but nonetheless, I will remind you on the bottom of the salary proposal in the summary box, $2.1 million of non-recurring, that is
Correct.
money that's going to the bottom line, is going to go into health insurance.
We had a discussion of that, Judy. I forget if you were you here? Did you miss part of last week or all of last week?
I missed all of last
We
week.
did I don't know if you got to watch tape or something, but right, when there's money left over between budgeted and spent, that falls out, okay, you call that non-recurring, that money can go somewhere. In this case, you've decided it can go there. We appreciate that, that's good. We still have that phenomenon, if there's a budget, there's a spent, moving forward, there's that gap. That's what we suggest using there. The example we came up with is if every week mom gives you 20 bucks to go to the store, every week it costs you $19. If mom's kind of cool and says keep the dollar, well, that's nice. But yet if mom wants to send you with a true $20 worth of things to buy at the store, as an increase what you're going to spend, well, you're still okay. You still have that gap in there. You just won't have a non-recurring fallout. But you can spend that. I'm going to give a counter proposal. Y'all are going to think about it. You're going to tell me if it's worth coming back, because if we can do something with this, then maybe we could wrap up some other stuff. We put a little extra time and we're done. All right? If you want to email it to you, I'll email, but I don't mind just leaving it here. And if you want us to go, you can play on the machine if you want to see what you find. It's all outdated music if you go in that file. But we've taken out the leadership. We've taken down the salary adjustment. We understand if that doesn't come until November, we can explain to teachers that's a piece of your salary. We'll figure that out when VAM comes in.
Sure. Where's the salary adjustment?
That's right. It's right here. It's highly
Okay.
effective and
All right.
effective. So, yeah, we're a little caught there on the
What
screen.
had the same as the other one? You took it from 150 to 130?
From the original, it had been
Oh,
200, 150.
Yeah, but then.
And Judy said, we were trying to take that
Yes.
bottom line number.
That's what I'm getting at.
Judy, you got your name on a spreadsheet there.
Right.
But we're trying to take that, we're trying to see how that
So I
can
got
work.
my own tab.
Congratulations, you got your own tab.
All right.
And then in our counter,
All right.
so we did adjust that. We adjusted a little of those loyalty bonuses. Let's see, we've been let's see, where were we? No, I'm sorry, that was Judy's. We were 507, 51,000. Oh, like I said, we didn't move those at all.
You took leadership out?
We took leadership out. We took leadership out. We changed the salary adjustments.
That's the same. Right. That's where you got your money.
That's where we got some money, from the salary adjustments and from the leadership coming out. That's just the value the district had it. We'd like to do it. It's interesting. We may not be able to do it this year. We have moved to just under 6 million. As I said, we took a big step and a micro step. Now you've taken a big step and a micro step. We are 1.2 million apart. We see that comfortably within that gap. Judy had mentioned it was 1.8 million. So I get to say Judy on that one because it really was Judy that said that. You got some money for Endeavor. And we'll, so University Park, was there a third school or was it just those two?
We are gonna, well, we are gonna have to do some things for Madison.
For Madison, okay.
Coaches.
But, come on, man, let's get it done.
All right, well, let's talk about it.
You want us out? You want to talk to us, or you want to talk among yourselves?
I think we need to talk about it. And then we can come back and decide if we need to come back next week or where we are.
As in we go?
Yeah.
Was that an invitation for us to
We
leave?
don't, you haven't given us anything across the table, so we're gonna have to stare.
That's what we mean for that. Do you want an email to you so you can go run make some copies? Or do you want just there and you play on the computer? If you go digging, I think I got. Oh, and I got to get the email to work. Now I gotta
Save it, save it.
Right, but I need to see if the internet will
I mean,
work.
I don't wanna create a
Oh,
lot
I'm
of.
not connected.
We just look at it, you email it to you later.
Yeah, just let us look at it and
All
you
right.
can email me later. Dan.
Yeah, I got to, it's saved.
We won't mess with it.
Okay, yeah, we got a flash drive if you want on one of your machines. So I'll make sure, you'll get it by the day, but, it's this tab called Counter One. Sorry, let me give you my attention. Yes, sir.
All right. We know where you are and we heard you and it may be that we were optimistic in thinking we could get a contract today. We're gonna ask that we need to go back and take a look at your proposal. We're gonna have to, vet the numbers, take a look at the numbers, do all the things that you asked us to do, because it's much more than we anticipated. So, unfortunately, I don't have a counter for you right now, because obviously, we need to take a look at how we're going to counter, if we can counter. This is all that I ask of you for the next time that we meet next Wednesday. we need language from you guys. We need language from you all with a placement salary schedule. They'd asked us to take a look at that. Remember, we said we would come back to that. We discussed it. We're willing to listen, but you all are the ones that brought it up. It's in the contract. We put it across the table. So we're owed a counter in writing. And if you want to substitute numbers or letters or a combination of whatever, then we want to see what that looks like. We want language for the list of things that are up there on the whiteboard. And the big things that you had put up there today that we've started to talk about, and we've given language across the table about, is 6 of 7, AC reappointments, and of course, we're in the middle of discussing salary. This is what I think both teams are tasked with. This is just my opinion. We can discuss this if we need to right now before we break and go home. Dan, you had told us, and Stephanie has told us, and I assume that Stephanie and you were speaking for your team, you don't like our model. You don't like our formula. Okay? We thought that you did, but we've heard today that you don't. We took a look at your model up there, and I will tell you, we don't like your model. I'll tell you why. We're not into paying $0 to teacher leaders. We feel very, very strongly that teacher leaders, those people who are doing the things that we've asked them to do for free, get paid for it. We are not into loyalty. We've been told by countless people that we're not going to get into paying people loyalty. We can call it and look at how we would like to structure that, and we understand what your all's needs are. I get it, Stephanie, that there is maybe some differentiated pay that we can go there with, but we don't like that. And we're right now not going to entertain the pay for performance piece. $150 and $113, that makes a mockery of where we think the law was intended to go. And we have been warned that if we make a mockery of it, then we'll pay dearly for that by our legislatures. So, you don't like our model? We're right now having difficulty with your model. So this is what I suggest that we do. Where can we find compromise? So that means we need to develop a new model. Don't we? We have to agree on a formula. For Judy and be able to run numbers, and for you all to get numbers to your teachers who say this is exactly what you're going to get or who's going to get what, we're going to have to come up with new formulas. And we're starting right over from scratch. It seems to me we're starting right over where we were 6 weeks ago. Where I thought that we had agreed on a formula, we've not. Would you agree with me?
Well, I wouldn't put it as in that dire terms of starting over.
No, I don't
I think we've gone pretty far. Here's what happened. I mean, at one time we like this returning supplement, whatever you want to call it. We said we somehow gravitated towards that word loyalty with some kind of supplement. We ended up differentiating it almost out of necessity, as much as principle. We like the principle of it, but we were trying to save dollars, and that's where we ended up putting it in three different three different steps. Yeah, I'm trying to avoid the word steps, but you know what I mean. That's where we came up with this many to this many, then this many years, because that's just how we're trying to cut money from the proposal. To be just frank about it, that's how we ended up there. So if you don't want to differentiate for that, we're okay. One time though, we did agree that let's put it all into that, and we proposed, and then you came back later and said you weren't clear that that was our proposal. Remember that day we filled up some numbers on the board, and we put loyalty supplement 1,500. Later on, you came back, another session. You're like, oh, we think you were serious about, all that. But yeah, that's our model. But if we have to start over, and I'm always itching just to put it together, spreadsheet it, do it in real time. But we'll give you something. Just to answer some of these other things, we're going to take this challenge that you've given, but just so you know what we're looking for, the placement on the salary schedule. I'm not looking to go back to the beginning and recreate this graph here that we have, this graphic. All we want is an accurate representation. I'm not suggesting we offer something different than what you're already doing. I just want an accurate representation of years of experience.
Then put it in writing.
But we don't know what they are. I mean, we don't know what this. I can't put in. I could put up here. AA is, if you come into this county with 12 years experience, well, I could put it in writing where that goes, but I'm not gonna be accurate unless I call you up and say, hey, Jim, 12 years experience, where does that go? And you all must know, because you place people. And I trust, I mean, I truly believe that you get it accurate, as in, all the people hired into the county this year with 12 years experience, you're gonna get them on the same letter. But I just don't know what that letter is. So I would just want that, whatever chart you have, I would just say, just put it here. That's all we wanna do for that. I don't wanna renegotiate, I don't wanna try to change what you're doing. Y'all have a way, y'all have a methodology to it, and I would say let's just spell it out. So that's all I'm looking for. Because I may go put in numbers in there, you might say, Dan, but that's not what we're doing, so now you wanna negotiate something different. And no, I'm not. I mean, am I kind of being clear? I'm not trying to make the task more difficult. I'm not trying to overdo it. As far as language, we've given language 6 and 7, but we'll look at it. We'll see if we need to change anything on that, or did we? No, we did. You guys gave the language.
We gave language today, we put it across the table. We
Would you
said
send
that
me-
we would come down from 3 years from probationary and
That's your AC.
to 2. You all went out of caucus and said that you all weren't happy with that you all were needing to table that. So
We can work on
with
it.
your written, come with your written language next week. We've given you ours.
We will. We'll counter with that. Would you please send us electronically that you had a board strategic plan? You had some language strategic plan you'd send. If you would just send that to me electronically.
Pass this across.
Oh, or give it to me. Yeah, that's fine. You guys send electronically. We'll just take it. And then salary, well,
Both of these? Both of these?
all right, and then, let's see,
Now, the AC, you had wanted us also to talk about AC. We inserted some language there, so I'm gonna put that across. Remember we were talking about ACs?
oh, that's your change to ours, okay?
That's right. So I wanted to get that across to you all, so you were all.
So we'll get together, do that again. And we gave you just a trinket of comp time language. I'll tell you, Jim, that's not gonna hold up the contract. I mean, it's important. I don't think it's not important, but that's not gonna hold up the
So,
contract.
yeah, we owe language on comp time, so I'm gonna put that there.
Thank you.
I will send you electronically this spreadsheet, even though you wrote it down. You're gonna, unless you block me from your email, you're gonna get it. Maybe I'll send you a copy too.
Before we go home, Dan,
Okay, thank you.
let me wait till everyone gets there.
Oh, seriously. I'm looking up going, what's Rob doing?
I like that.
I'm going slowly, going
That's fine,
slowly.
that's fine, Rob, you're doing great.
You make it tough on me.
Thank you.
Okay. The one thing that we have had conversations on in caucus, and we have to discuss this. We heard you allude to the fact that we would be held, I think the word you put was safe harbor. That when dam scores come in, which we know they come in around October, right? When we get to a contract, how we pay that out?
I actually took that phraseology out of this proposal when we countered. Now, that's because we took down those values.
Right.
That I didn't, we tried to take down the values to something that it wasn't that big a deal that we had. That's a value that we have, is the evaluation system. It's not to pick on the people who helped put it together here. It's not to pick on the people that do the math calculation for VAM here in this, say, building, in this county. All right? We're not confident enough with the evaluation system as the legislature has created it as AIR, that foundation that looks at our numbers anonymously and creates raw data. We're not that confident in this evaluation system that we're ready to tell teachers, yes, there's a big difference between highly effective and effective as finally determined by VAM. which is why we're not looking for a big differentiation between them. If it's gonna be a differentiation between, in your proposal, it was about $150, I think, or $200, then we wanna start talking about how do we safety that up a little bit. Because we get the phone, for a couple of years now, it hasn't really mattered for money.
Right.
If I lose a point and I go from highly effective down to effective because of VAM, it hasn't changed money, but it matters to teachers. Let me be clear on that, it matters to teachers. And we try to say, hey, VAM doesn't matter, we don't know where these raw numbers come from, they come from the Jeb Bush Foundation. But we will care about it, if there's a big, if it matters for a great amount of money, we will care.
Right. What we had discussions on though is, what conversations were you all having with when this would be paid? If we agreed on a contract.
If we get a contract and we're on our way, like with that proposal I gave you,
Yeah.
if we get a contract and we're on our way,
But
we
when
vote
you say
when we
we're
come.
on our way.
I say we're on, okay, what our on our way means is that we go back to school, we explain to teachers, here's what's going on, we have our contract vote like we always do. If it ratifies, we go to board, which would be you got one late August. If we can put a vote, if it's reasonable, teachers are informed, if we could do the vote for the August 26th board meeting, if that works. If we give you a yes vote, board approves it, then you're on your way to then it's just payroll. All right? And teachers would understand all elements are running. Okay, if you're at a DF school, if you're a critical need, your supplement, all that just goes. There's a little retro because we do right at the beginning of school year, right? But I mean, it all just goes. And then November, you're gonna get another increase in pay. That'll either be for highly effective or effective. And that's how I envision this being. Teachers just know that's your raise, it's not your whole raise. VAM is done, all that's done, and then that comes in around Christmas time.
You said something
That
today.
bump.
Right, you said something today, now I want to move on to something else, but I was really, really clear with, and I've been clear the whole time that I've been at the table, so it really surprised me that today you said this. Dan, supplements are paid year to year. And you said today, it seemed that you were saying that we want this to be a supplement to become part of their base salary. That we would assume that if we paid out whatever dollar amount that we agreed to, I think you put across the table, for loyalty, you put $500, $750, and $1,000, that this would become part of their base salary, and we'd pick back up with that next year. We have never, ever, ever, ever said that that would be part of where we would go with negotiations. In fact, the first day that we spoke, I said, if we go down this route of paying supplements to teachers instead of pay for performance, just realize that supplements are paid and negotiated year to year, that there's no guarantee. We're not going to then say that this becomes part of their base salary, that they can count on this money. And I was very clear about that, Dan. Go back and watch the tapes.
No, I know you were.
I never wanted anyone to think that we were going to say that supplements were going to become part of base salary. And today, you said that, and we about went, what? So what I'm getting at is, I'm not sure where you're going to have to come with us with some language, because it has really confused us with what happened.
Well, let me
with
clarify
this,
that.
This afternoon, we're not into a position where we're saying supplements are base.
Supplements are not base.
No, they're not.
But let's clarify where we were, okay? In that first discussion, we had to talk about, well, we want somehow that this is some kind of, recurring theme, and you clarified that they're not recurring themes. And we didn't settle one way or another, we put that aside, we didn't settle it, we didn't TA anything. You made it clear your view that, Dan, we can't just guarantee this, it's not part of your base pay. If you're making $40,000 right now and that's your salary, next year you start at $40,000 until we settle on something different. Supplements aren't that clean. That was part of a discussion we had about making the best of a bad law, meeting the letter of the law, not the spirit of the law. That was discussion, and we kind of put that part aside. But here's where I left off in that. Let's just say we have a package and we go out to teachers ratified and we're moving forward. Well, Judy's going to know from her allotment of teacher salary, let's say it's $230 million. I just pulled numbers out. It's $230 million. is what we're spending this year on teacher salary. It's possible with this thing, we're doing, okay, 5 million of that might have been the supplement that we created, whether it's loyalties or whatever we call the thing. All right, well, next year, we would expect that that money is still there, plus or minus whatever the legislature does to us, and we're back talking about it. And just to put you on notice, the union will I can't promise what we'll do, but we probably will begin with, let's recur that money, let's keep that supplement going. A teacher that got $1,000 supplement, I'd have to bring it to you for negotiation. I'd have to say, all those teachers that got their $1,000, I mean, that's a dummy number right now, we hadn't settled that. But listen, every teacher got their $1,000 supplement, we want them to keep getting their $1,000 supplement, and now we're adding on another supplement. And this is one awkward way of dealing with an awkward law, and counties across the state right now are figuring out how they're gonna deal with it. Some districts have chopped up their salary schedule into 81 different steps. I didn't think that would be appropriate for us.
Now you know why it's important.
But you're right, we're not agreed on,
No.
we're not settled on.
Now you know why it's important that we have a formula. Remember, we started with the formula. I know you all kind of like, why are we revisiting this? That's why.
What you called a formula, we called structure, we meant the same idea. First, we wanted to agree on what our structure would be, and then we wanted to plug in
I want
numbers.
to make sure, and I know you don't like it, I know you don't like it, and I've heard that, and I get it, but I want you to know, this keeps everyone moving forward next year, the year after, 3 years from now, 4 years from now. It will give us an idea of how we're going to plug numbers in, so that when I say, if you don't like this, and we're saying we don't like yours, we're going to have to begin anew. That's what I'm saying, we need to look at our models, and we need to look at how we're going to compromise, because I can tell you right now, we're not going to put supplements as base salary. We're not going to do it, I've said it from day one. Doesn't meet the letter of the law. The whole point behind me saying that, the whole point of us even beginning to even consider supplements was because you all wanted to get away very quickly away from pay for performance, because you knew that was just going to really drive a stake in our workforce. And I agree with you. I agree from that day one. But Dan, we're inching closer and closer and closer and closer to what you all want, and further away from what we need to do. And that is, we got paid for performance. We're not going to make a mockery of it. We went from, we now are at $115 to $113. No.
Well,
You get what I'm saying? Y'all come back with a formula.
with all due respect, we need
We'll
to.
come with 1, 2, we'll look at compromise, but.
You have the last word, Phil, but I just gotta put this in there, because I got people watching every word we say here. Our supplement does meet the letter of the law, and that the letter of the law allows for a list of supplements, and then it said, and then more can be negotiated. So we can negotiate it, meets the law. You may not like it and prefer to do it, we may have the opinion to do it some other way, but we're not outside the law by doing that. I hear what you're saying about let's not make a mockery of it. At one time, we had agreed on these were enough dollars. We had some numbers in there. We said this is enough, so it's not a mockery. And then we had to reduce our numbers to squeeze into, suggestions. So we did that for visual purposes to show here's where we have to squeeze. But where I think we're disagreeing is that we're not as far back. You said we're back to the beginning where we were 6 weeks ago. I don't think we're that far back. I'm going to take the challenge of giving you a formula that kind of it incorporates your values as well as ours, and we'll go from there. And you're going to go and dig, and I really think we're on the same page. You haven't told me anything that makes me think you disagree with me on this value of we want teachers coming back to school satisfied. We're not going to get everybody satisfied, happy, but realizing that this is better, we worked hard, we did all we could, and we're just not there yet. That's where we may not agree, but we're not there yet.
Well, okay. I want to make sure that we're clear. We've offered total package, grand total, 8.9, almost $9 million. And so, I hope that you'll take in consideration that if that's what we have across the table. We'll take in consideration that you all need more money for folks that are loyal to our district, whatever we call it. We understand that, and we'll come back next Wednesday and we'll start anew.
Okay.
Okay.
And one thing, if we're not able to resolve this issue with FRS, We just need to change it and call it a bonus. So that we don't jeopardize other supplements in this district that we're paying.
Well, we'll let that be a,
We'll talk about it.
we'll do our work with our legal department.
All right.
You know, bonus can be a dirty word in a hurry, but we'll,
Yeah, I know.
but we will, we'll look at that. That would, of course, save you some money on the fringe that you're planning to pay, so we'll have an idea where that money could go. But we'll,
Small number.
all right, Jim, we're at 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock, Wednesday, the
On the 30th.
30th.
Okay.
We'll be here.
We'll be